Masters asked to wake up. The protagonist thought he looked like a flying squirrel while in flight. A guy noticed he wasn't wearing his parachute suit and didn't understand why he had become fat. He decided to activate magic quickly and didn't realize what he was doing. The hero began to pick up possible spells, but they didn't work. An inner voice told him to say Vosperi, and he said it. It seemed to him that it finally worked. But he was still falling. The boy began to repeat the spell. The hero didn't understand how in such a state he should defeat the evil god. A few minutes ago, the boy and the girl were sitting in an airplane. Finally, he is finished with his work and returns to Japan. As a reward for successfully negotiating a big contract, his boss has booked him a seat in business class. And it's very comfortable. Usually business trips abroad are a deadly bore. But this girl sitting next to him gave him a couple of happy memories. The hero suggested her to go back to her chair, for they would be landing soon. In front of them stood her grandmother. The girl asked if she would see her big brother again. He replied that of course, and cheered her up. Suddenly the woman disappeared. It was before their eyes. A hole appeared directly below the old woman into which she fell. The guy felt as if time had stopped. A voice arose in his head, saying that if the fellow thought he could do it, he was fit. It was clearly audible. Is he hallucinating? Or maybe he's just dreaming. The girl's voice said it was not a hallucination. She is addressing him directly. The girl asked him to relax. He can communicate with her thoughts. It will be easier for him that way. The guy asked if he was dead and who she was. A god? Or the king of Enma? The girl noticed that the protagonist was rather calm. He's right, she is indeed a goddess. But he's not dead yet. The guy assumed he would die after their conversation. Obviously, he won't be alive. He had heard that the gods hadn't helped anyone yet. Turns out the boy was right. The goddess explained that because of the explosion that had occurred, all the passengers would die. They don't have much time, so she'll get right to the point. The girl is a goddess who rules the other world. This surprised the guy. She had received permission from the god of the local world to choose a man and summon him as a hero. For the protagonist, this was becoming even more suspicious. Nothing good should definitely be expected from such an offer. The goddess wanted him to come to her world and defeat the evil god who is sealed in the dungeon. Well, or just renew the seal. The boy was sorry, but he has to refuse. The girl wondered, he's going to die, isn't he? The protagonist replied that he had lived a good life. She's in trouble. He should have liked the offer, right? According to the guy, he does like all sorts of Isekai'd and rebirths. But he likes stories, not doing something like defeating an evil god or something scarier. The goddess asked him not to talk like that and to help her. But he didn't want to. Better to die than risk his life like that. She confessed that, in fact, of all the passengers on board, only one could be saved. The goddess spoke of this girl. He asked if she wanted to offer him her salvation in exchange for agreeing to be reborn in her world. The girl added that he could help her that way if he sacrificed himself. She said nothing of the sort. The protagonist realized that if there was such a possibility, he should save her. The goddess said she would fulfill his request and asked him to give her a moment. She had already had a word with their god. He is so greedy. As soon as they finished their conversation, she would have to do something. The boy thanked her for listening to his selfish request. According to her, if he refused her, her world would have no time at all. Since she had paid the price for saving the girl's life, he agreed to be the hero the goddess would call to her world. The girl was overjoyed. After his death, his memories and soul would also be reborn. The boy realized that it was a rebirth, not a summoning after death. The first thing the protagonist did was to record the hole in the fuselage with his phone camera. He sent this video to his sister who would be waiting for him at the airport. The guy called her and decided to tell her what needed to be reported. The girl answered and said she would pick him up from the airport. The older brother asked her to record this conversation. She didn't understand why. He gave each of his loved ones messages. The sister thought it was a joke that went too far. Toth replied that he wanted to save this girl. She would be able to track his geolocation by phone. So they should find her as soon as possible. The boy was very glad that he could hear his sister's voice for the last time. He said goodbye. Next, he took out a traveling sewing kit and sewed a sheet to his suit. Guy put a pillow between him and the girl, tied her securely to him. The next step was to confirm the fuel dump. He prepared to jump. People thought the guy was going crazy. The girl begged at least the kid to be left alone. He said he was sorry he'd ignored her all this time. She kept her cool till the end. The girl said she was scared. He asked her to just trust him and keep her eyes open. She would get back to her mum safe and sound. Last step. The protagonist sent a message to his sister, who was now 5 kilometers from the airport, and put in the girl's life jacket. He thought he looked like a flying squirrel. They made it to the ground. The boy repeated the spell and thought he was about to crash. A dragon suddenly appeared in front of him. The protagonist felt that he could not get up. It was hard for him. He got off the bed. He had a headache. His memories were intertwined with other people's memories. Luke was approached by a servant. Another servant asked what was wrong with him. He asked to get a doctor urgently and informed the king. His name is Luke, but that goddess mentioned the rebirth of a living person's soul and memories. He seems to be in trouble. The man asked how long Luke planned to sleep. The guy asked if he was his father. The man hit him over the head for it. The protagonist thought he was about to die. He noticed a status bar on himself. It is a bracelet that prevents the wearer from using magic. Apparently the guy has been reborn in the body of the third prince of the great state of Luke, the infamous bad guy. He only attracts attention due to his horrible behavior and many rumors. Prince Orc is his name that has spread throughout the country. He realized that he was out of luck with this. The protagonist thought the goddess was too cruel. He didn't understand why the body of such a scoundrel was chosen for him. What a despicable type. The guy couldn't feel his consciousness. Apparently, he had died in that incident. His father said to stop thinking in the clouds. He only hit him lightly. But it turned out that the blow was very palpable. The protagonist gathered his will into a fist. He asked why he was wearing a bracelet that sealed magic. According to his father, to keep him from escaping. It's not like the boy is not used to taking responsibility. Now there is no way to run away. The protagonist realized that he was right. Luke repeatedly ran away from home. He wondered where that dragon had gone. He asked his father what had become of it. He replied that when he arrived at the place, it was already dead. Because he was protecting him. The man complimented that the dragon was beautiful. As it turned out, Luke fed magic to the dragon egg, and when the dragon cub hatched, they became friends. He cried. This surprised the boy, for Luke's emotions were coming through. The father remarked that the death of a friend made even his son sad. The one asked to be allowed to be alone. According to the king, it's too late to shed tears. It is better to draw conclusions. At last the emotions subsided. The boy thought it would be good to study Luke's memories. He was reborn in the body of 15-year-old Luke A. Wulg. He is 170 centimeters tall and weighs 135 kilograms. He knows how to handle dragons, but otherwise his peers are ahead of him. However, no matter how idiotic he is still an elite after all. That's why he was accepted into the Dragon Rider Academy. The tragedy happened on the last day of the exams. At the flight control exam. Even the king came to watch. At that time, Luke thought it was his finest hour. Unlike humans, dragons can see 350 degrees. And they don't like anyone being in their blind spot. Anything in their blind spot, the dragon reflexively attacks with its tail. That's what happened to poor Luke. Luke didn't even seem to have time to realize anything. The guy made a judgment call. That voice guiding him was one of the goddess's gifts. She had said then that she would not leave him without support. To him, a hero summoned to another world, she would bestow 3 skills. They are situational judgment, finding the hidden, and pockets in space. Guy would like more artificial intelligence navigation like in computer games. The goddess understood what he meant and decided to fulfill it. You can't hear the navigation, probably because of the bracelets. And you can't summon it either. Mr. Luke has visitors. He apologized to his mother, but she was not happy with his behavior. His sister had been up all night worrying about him. The boy apologized for making them worry. The younger sister hugged him and asked him if he was well. Mum said that even little Lulu was worried. The woman added that they would make a decision about him with the family. This surprised him. Till then she had asked him to stay out of trouble. The protagonist did not realize what decision she meant. Mother asked if he really thought that after losing the dragon he would return to the academy, as if nothing had happened. He remarked that in anger she is fearsome but fair. Mr. Luke had visitors. They were frequenting his house today. He let them in. He was rushed in by Lulu, who hugged him. Her name is Lulu Tiake Morel, and she is 6 years old. She is the second daughter of the Marquis. She is wearing the academy uniform. She and Luke have been betrothed since they were children. Apparently, Luke loved her dearly. The girl said she was so scared. He's been unconscious for 2 days. The guy apologized for scaring her. The sister was glad he was alive and well. He thanked her for her concern. The girl hesitantly wanted to confess something. She said that her and Lulu's engagement was broken off. He didn't understand why. She didn't know all the details, but she was sure the recent accident was the reason. Lulu knew it. According to the girl, His Majesty arrived at their residence at noon today to discuss the cancellation of the engagement with his father. The father also finds his behavior of late questionable, so he agreed. Nothing more was said to her. She apologized. The boyfriend wondered why nothing could be done. He said he was sorry that her reputation had suffered because of her engagement to him. He understood why her father had taken such a step. Guy asked her to tell him that he would stop by to apologize as soon as his house arrest was lifted. Lulu realized that Luke agreed with his father's decision. He replied that she had better find a better match than the Pig Prince. The girl hoped that he would one day be her Luke again. She did not understand why he was so cruel to her. Lulu ran away in tears. Luke didn't know what was going on. It's not like he's a narrow-minded short story hero. He understood everything. So Lulu loves Luke too. His sister asked him not to stand still and run after her. He replied that he was under house arrest. She slapped him. The girl called him an idiot and walked away. The boy cried. The servant noticed it. The protagonist thought that now, because of his tears, there will be gossip. Because the sister and the fiancé had offended. He couldn't get yesterday out of his mind. However, he doesn't have to love Luke's fiancée. She was nothing more than a memory. The boy hoped she would forgive him. But to him, Lulu is a complete stranger. Apparently the goddess chose the prince's body for him because he has the money and resources to go to war with that god. With the support of the royal family, even the impossible will prove possible. In the meantime, he decided to clean himself up. He's got plenty of time for that. All in the name of victory. If he was going to do it, he had to finish it. He wondered if he could do one push-up. The maid brought him his food and wished him a pleasant appetite. She was not happy about something. He wanted to talk to her, but she left. As it turned out, still angry because he was peeping on her. Although, of course, it wasn't him. But he's still uncomfortable. And he has the goddess who made him the Pig Prince to thank for that. By the way, she is the chief goddess of this world. I think it's Nareda, the goddess of water. 10 days have passed since Lulu's visit. No one else comes. There's not much to do, so he works out as hard as he can. The protagonist thought he'd lost a few kilos. His Majesty came to see Mr. Luke. His father stood in front of him. The boy was pleased to greet him. The king said he had an important conversation to have with him. The son was ready to accept any punishment. According to his father, he was a persistent rule breaker, but he had committed no offenses, so he would not be punished severely. Luke wondered what would happen to him. As it turned out, first of all, having lost the dragon, he lost his place in the Academy of Dragon Riders. The boy realized that he had already been expelled. This was something he was prepared for. The king wanted to get him a place at the Knight Academy, in the magic department. But his scores in the entrance exams were not enough. He was ashamed to fall to the ground. He had never felt such shame before. No wonder. His father even hired tutors for him. I guess that's why he was so angry. In the end, he was only accepted to the military faculty. But with all that extra weight, he wouldn't last a day. The man noticed that he had lost weight. The boy proudly replied that he had decided to take care of himself. The king replied that he was a long way from being a knight. Luke said he needed some kind of occupation or their reputation would suffer. The father agreed with this. His son's antics had already tarnished his good name. The boy apologized. The king didn't realize what kind of fool he had in his sons. So he consulted his ministers. They came up with an excellent solution. He would be married to a neighboring kingdom. The protagonist was surprised. Luke thought getting married was a bad decision. He understood why the engagement had been broken off. It was not for a wedding that he had come here. The king asked him not to be too upset. He had heard of the Forel kingdom, hadn't he? They've decided to breed with the Duke of Forest. The Duke has 3 daughters. But the Duke never had an heir. So he decided to marry off his eldest daughter. Then Luke will be able to enter the Faculty of Magic. The Duke's daughter is also studying there. The wedding will take place after graduation. The boy objected because he already has a fiancée, Lulutia. The father said that as he had heard, the engagement was cancelled. The king advised him to think about the foolish things he had done, and he could forget about his Lulutia. The lad said that rumors about him must be spreading in other countries as well. The man replied that Forel was a vassal of their state. The population there is 50 times smaller than theirs. To keep the aristocratic blood pure, every couple of years the kingdom offers its neighbors a few marriages. Usually, members of the upper nobility with magical abilities are chosen. In the past, they were satisfied with children from royal families, but now they need an heir not lower than a ducal family. Luke thought that if they wanted a nobleman, they might as well get rid of a promiscuous son. His father said the groom must be an able magician. No one cares about his antics. The boy is the son of a king, which means he inherited rare family talents. For a marriage of convenience, it's the perfect match. The protagonist thought it was unfair. Come to think of it, marriage is also good for him. It's a way for him to get out from under his father's tutelage. It's not so bad. The king asked him to do his filial duty. He said to get ready, for the boy would be leaving tomorrow morning. Luke wasn't expecting that. As it was, he decided to obey. He asked what kind of person his soulmate was. It turned out that little was known about her. He would meet her on the spot. The protagonist thought that something was amiss here, for he was being wooed for an unknown person. Then he should get busy with his packing. He asked if his father could remove the bracelets. The king said not even to ask. They will stay on until he arrives at the Duke's house. Otherwise he'll run right away, like he always does. He was given 100 million guineas as a dowry, and another million from him for personal expenses. So that when he arrives, he'll need nothing. In the morning, the first prince, Yael, tells his father that this is not the way to go. They leave in secret from their own family. The king explained that all this was only good for Luke. Yael did not understand how marrying a stranger could be good for him. Luke asked him to calm down. Father said it would take 15 days to travel by carriage. It would be much quicker on his dragon. He asked for deference to his father's will. Besides, he will have to accompany Luke because his father fears he will run away. If he does, Yael will be blamed. In other words, he is his parole officer. The boy asks if this is true. The king confirmed these words and asked Luke if it was necessary to speak so bluntly. The protagonist called it a little revenge. They will have to do as their father commands. No force can undo this engagement. Luke wondered why he had chosen the most unscrupulous son if the wedding was so important. It turned out that there would be no guards besides his brother. They would fly alone with Yael to keep the departure a secret. Well, on a dragon, it's unlikely they'll be attacked by anyone. Yael said he wouldn't make excuses for his father. Only the lad mustn't think he hates him. The protagonist understood. Still, it was like he was getting rid of him. His brother asked him not to say that. He will succeed if he wants to. So he should get his head on straight. Luke agreed with him. Border outpost. The border guard met them. He said he could arrange a place for them to rest if they wished. Yael replied that they were in a hurry, so they'd better continue on their way. The man told them to be careful on the road. They were approached by a girl. It was a flower girl who offered to buy flowers. The border guard said she was not supposed to talk to the nobles. Luke approached the girl. He asked her how much her flowers cost. She replied that it was 50 guineas a bunch. The boy decided to buy the whole basket. He gave her a gold coin. The florist apologized for not having change, but change was not needed. The protagonist asked to just take the coin, thank her and leave. The girl was glad because she would be able to buy her mum some medicine. It turned out that the woman was ill. Yael saw that his brother was at it again. Luke handed the flower girl a healing potion of medium strength. She could not accept such a gift, but he insisted. The girl thanked the master heartily and left. Yael called his brother a hardy man. Too bad the children are afraid of him. Luke replied that he understood a lot. They continued on their way. Luke noticed bandits robbing a carriage down there. Yael saw it too. But they can't help, Luke must be delivered safe and sound. The protagonist says the crew is wearing the crest of the box. He assumed it was someone from the royal family. They are obliged to go down and check. Yael decided to try to help them. The other one should hide somewhere. Luke replied that he would be alone if something happened to his brother. He is going with him. Yael asked to hurry up. The protagonist stopped him. This did not please his brother, as there is no time. Luke asked to take off his bracelets. With them he is useless. Yael complied with his request. Navigation returned, and the guy asked for a brief report on the situation. It turned out that it was extremely dangerous to engage in battle right now. He needed to check his status. A crystal board appeared in front of him. It showed the first level, although the guy thought it was the 18th level. It was explained to him that because of the rebirth, his ranking had been reset. It turns out that one swipe and he's dead. Well, at least Luke's skills have been transferred to him. He will be able to use magic only from the 10th level. But the spatial pocket is full of healing potions. Luke asked his brother to take the healing potions, he had plenty of them. Yael replied that it would come in handy. The protagonist used to be good at archery. It might be good for something. He decided to cover his brother from the air. The boy handed over the controls. Waltz will stay with Luke. Dragon used a slashing hurricane on command. This excited the crowd. Everyone didn't know where the dragon had come from. Luke fired his bow and hit the target accurately. People were dying at his hand. However, he is surprisingly good at shooting. Maybe some of Luke's abilities. The guy has reached level 10. Basic magic was now available to him. He was surprised that it came so soon. He used water healing. The guard thanked him. Luke noticed something amiss. A man in a black cloak appeared in front of him. The protagonist slew him with a thunder spear. It was the guy who was eventually tied up. The enemies surrendered. Luke healed the knights. His brother got by with a few scratches. Yael praised him for fighting very honorably. He was proud of him. The boy asked why he was always fooling around. Luke didn't think so. The protagonist said he was hardly fit to be a knight. When he remembers shooting people, his hands shake. Yael noticed that they were similar in this. The guards thanked them for their help. They had rescued them. Yael introduced them. The warriors apologized for their ignorance. The first prince explained that they were flying by and, seeing that the knights were ambushed, decided to help. He asked whom they were accompanying. A girl emerged from the wagon. She thanked them heartily for their help. The girl introduced herself as the second princess of the kingdom, and her name was MANHWA. Forel. The princess introduced herself. Luke was not familiar with her. It was strange that they hadn't met anywhere before. In front of them lay the girl who was protecting the wagon. A knife had hit her shoulder, but the wound had been healed by magic. They didn't understand what was wrong with her. Perhaps it was poison. The main character asked to be allowed to examine the wound and surprised everyone. Yael explained that his brother was skilled in water and monk healing magic and asked them to trust him. Luke needed an assistant. He saw the wound. Everyone didn't expect this. A guiding voice told him there had been poisoning. 3 others were injured. Luke didn't know how to assess the condition. The voice advised him to use the situation assessment skill. The boy listened to it. It was bad, it was toad poison. It doesn't kill instantly, but you have to hurry. Luke asked if they had strong antidotes, or a high-level healer. According to the guards, their healer died in battle long ago, and the 2 of them each have 1 vial of antidotes. The boy asked who else had stab wounds. 3 soldiers raised their hands. Yael had 2 vials, only 1 vial left. There are not enough antidotes. We have to do something. One of them decided to let the 2 strong potions be drunk by the soldiers, and he would take the one of medium strength. Both of the wounded men were surprised. Luke said he should drink the medicine too. Yael was indignant, for his brother would cross the head of the guards. The protagonist knew that the king's wagons always stored potions. The safety of the rulers is the key to peace in the country. He asked if the lives of the guards were worth less than 1 potion. The princess replied that of course not. And from now on she would take more potions. Luke had a strange premonition. As if he had missed something. The boy used the skill of finding hidden things. He learned that the higher his level, the larger the area he could see. The colors showed the roles of people. Luke tried using it. He noticed one red mark. Perhaps it was an escaped brigand. He wished he could see a more detailed map. As it turned out, the guy could use the detailed view. He clicked on the red marker. It was an archer who was aiming at the princess. Luke instantly ran up to her and shielded her from the arrow. The guards were ordered to surround the princess and cover her. Yao thought that they would not catch up with the enemy. The protagonist shot at an archer who was trying to escape on a horse. Everyone marveled at his marksmanship. The dragon was asked to bring the outlaw here alive. He fulfilled the request and received his reward. Yao asked him to stop feeding his dragon. He was already more attached to Luke than to him. The protagonist didn't think so. His brother asked if he knew what his favorite food was. Luke thought orcs, but it turned out not to be. Waltz actually liked to eat goblins. The dragon liked meat with a smack. Yao didn't understand why he had kept quiet before. Luke said it was the rider's responsibility to know such things. One of the guards pounced on the brigands with a sword. Luke stopped him. It turned out the knight wanted to kill them. Yao restrained him and surprised the head of the guard by doing so. The protagonist didn't think they were attacked by common robbers. The princess asked who they were then, if not robbers. Judging by the outfit, assassins. Wanted to kill the princess under the guise of robbery. The guard asked why the archer then? The boy suspected insurance. He had nothing to do with them. Yao said that hardly anyone knew about the princess's route. So there was an informant involved. The plan had failed, so the guard had to eliminate the mercenaries. Otherwise, they would be sent for interrogation. The girl asked if he was an accomplice of the assassins. The boy swore that he was not. MANHWA believed him. It was a holy simplicity. She showed her diploma as an interrogator of the highest rank. Therefore, no one could lie to her. This ability is unique and bestowed by the goddess. However, the princess herself cannot lie in return. Luke asked if she was traveling on state business. It turns out she was. One marquis was underpaying his taxes. The girl was on her way to question some valuable witnesses. The protagonist wondered if another interrogator would have come if she had been killed. Yao added that, however, it would have taken at least a fortnight to appoint a new person. And all the evidence would have been gone by now. The princess thought so too. The prisoner laughed. He said he was only a mercenary, knew almost nothing. MANHWA thought that was true. He was asked who hired him, but he did not want to say. He could not get more out of it. Luke held the princess by the arm. He plunged a knife into his opponent. Everyone was shocked. Yao didn't realize what he was doing. The protagonist had reached the 20th level. His rank had increased. The princess demanded an explanation. Luke asked if she suffered from myopia. Yes, she could barely make out the silhouettes of people. Is that why they killed the prisoner? Even though they had saved him from a guard. It seemed to her that he was able to remove the anti-magic bracelets with some strange movement. Yao noticed a stiletto in his hand. It was poisoned. MANHWA asked how on earth he had been able to remove them. Luke offered to try to fasten these bracelets on him. So now his hands are shackled behind his back. And in 5 seconds something is going to happen. The guy counted to 3. Yao and the princess were surprised. The main character told the princess that she had dropped something. He pulled out a rose. Yao understood. While they thought he was shackled in bracelets, Luke freed his left hand and drew them away with a bill. Then he made a flower. According to Luke, the bracelets open with a simple lockpick. He must have been planning to attack the princess. They saved her life 3 times today. She was so grateful. It turned out Luke could have escaped at any time. But then his father would unleash all his anger on him. Then his brother suggested he put the bracelets back on. Luke said he would not run away, especially not in front of the princess. MANHWA asked why put the bracelets back on the prince. Luke asked if his brother couldn't have kept his voice down. The first prince explained that he had orders from his father. To keep Luke from running away, he would accompany him to the ducal castle. This surprised the girl. The king must not trust his son at all. It's because his father wants to marry him. And he wasn't even asked? The princess found it interesting. Yael suggested that Luke first create a list of cronies. Its existence surprised the lad. It is a defense against spies. His brother asked him to check it out well. MANHWA suggested that the protagonist put her name on the friend list. When a princess is listed as the first friend, it's a privilege. She can't lie, so she is genuinely happy about their friendship. The girl just has to go to see the Duke, who happens to be her uncle. She asked if they would mind her company. Yael accepted the offer. According to the princess, warriors from the Duke's guard would be arriving here now. The guards arrived at the place. Luke didn't understand why they were staring at him like that. Luke didn't understand why the guards were looking at him so unkindly and asked his brother about it. Yael thought they were trying to intimidate Luke. They are showing disrespect to the royal family. The princess asked what they were allowing themselves. It is unthinkably rude to behave in this way towards the prince. Should she have them executed as rebels? The guards apologized to her, but she reminded them that it was not her they had insulted. The knights apologized to Luke. The protagonist didn't understand why he needed their ordered apology. Yael asked them to forgive them, and that was that. Luke wanted to know the reason and offered the princess to help him, to which she agreed. They asked Bale, the squad leader, if the guards were up to no good against the prince. It turned out not to be so. The princess asked if they knew of her powers. They see lies instantly, and instantly recognize treason. The guards were devoted to their Amelia with all their hearts. Luke asked who Amelia was. The knights were surprised, for he did not know the name of his bride. He was told of his betrothed only that she was the daughter of a duke. Had the bridegroom been Prince Yael, no one would have said a word. But rumors about Prince Luke had reached even their duchy. This did not please the protagonist. He asked how they knew about him and the engagement. A minstrel from the kingdom of Wulg had wandered in. He told many curious things. Yael was surprised that they allowed him to defame the royal family. The girl explained that his ballads about the pig prince were fascinating. The notoriety had overtaken him. The princess suggested that the prince go to the duke in her carriage. Inside sat the princess's personal maid, Isekai'd, Frances. She thanked the prince for saving her mistress. Luke said he didn't have to, he was just lucky to spot the poison. He asked the princess to tell him about Amelia. The girl replied that they were cousins. Amelia is rather withdrawn, rarely appearing in public. Nevertheless, she herself had no trouble entering the faculty of magic. And now she was married to Luke, a complete stranger, according to her father's wishes. The boy sensed it wasn't that simple. The prince began to hum a song about himself. It was about what was happening to him right now. The girls laughed. MANHWA asked what the dull song was about. She wondered if he was so disgusted by the thought of being engaged. Luke asked how they would feel if they were him. He couldn't accept that everything had been decided without him. The princess confessed that she had been considered flawed since childhood because of her poor eyesight. Also, because of her ability to recognize lies, hardly anyone sees her as a good match. The prince said it was possible not to lie. And he found her not only beautiful but charming. The girl was delighted at the sincere compliment. Erica noticed that they were about to arrive at the castle. The boy was feeling ill. The princess asked if he was all right. Luke surmised that his brother was already at the castle gates. He hoped Yael would finally remove the bracelets. Duke's castle. In response to Yael's question, Luke replied that he had enjoyed the ride. Then next they would ride in the Duke's carriage. The protagonist asked the navigator what had become of the girl he wanted to save. News of the other world is not available to him. The guy had better turn to the goddess. He realized that he should get to her temple as soon as possible. Duke Forrest's house. They were met by Duke Galeby, Forrest. He first of all expressed his gratitude for saving his niece. Yael felt that they had done nothing special. The Duke decided to introduce the others to them. He opened the doors. They were met by maids, whom Yael asked Luke not to peek at again. He replied that he hadn't even thought about it. The Duke's second daughter's name was Anna, followed by Lala. The Duke asked the younger one to say hello. He was uncomfortable in front of his guests. She is too shy. He apologized that Amelia was now studying for her exams at the academy, so she hadn't met them. Besides, she seemed to be ill. The brothers realized that. They introduced themselves. Anna thought Luke was a real pig and felt sorry for her little sister. Her father hit her for this. Gale apologized for his daughter's bad manners. Yael said she was not the only one like that. Luke realized who he was talking about. The Duke apologized for not giving rest. but he would like to ask Prince Yael and Yefa to participate in the interrogation. His Majesty went to the Marquis's domain. A report on the interrogation of the robbers must be prepared. Luke can wait here for now. Anna will keep him company. The girl was not happy about it. Navigation suggested that Duke Gale seemed to want to leave him with Anna and Lala, testing how he would behave with them. He won't marry his daughter off to just anyone, even on the king's orders. If the rumors about Luke are confirmed, he'll back down. The protagonist understood everything. Erica decided to make tea. He was surprised by Anna's look. The boy decided to make origami from paper. Lala wondered what it was. She recognized the wyvern. Anna realized it was a dragon. She heard he was studying to be a rider and had threatened his dragon. Luke said it was as if it was alive, but the girl thought it was just paper. He made the dragons move. Lala asked him to teach her too. Luke asked where the bathroom was. The girl wanted to walk him in, but Anna called for the maid. She asked Iris to walk him to the washroom. The protagonist thought that in this world, toilets must be primitive everywhere. Just a hole in the floor. The navigator replied that not at all. In this world, the maids clean the toilet with magic. Luke used a purification spell and wondered where everything went after the spell. It turned out to go into another dimension. The same place where his belongings are stored in the dimensional pockets. The navigator asked him not to tell anyone about it, because it was secret information. The boy thought the secrets of the gods. Iris looked into the bathroom and saw that no cleaning was required. Luke managed on his own. He heard a cough. According to the girl, it was coming from Mistress's room. She lay down to rest. The navigator explained that in their world this disease is called tuberculosis. Here it is incurable, but the contagion can be removed by a magical barrier. He decided to talk to the lady. Iris asked him to stop. The disease is highly contagious. He shouldn't go in there. The guy offered to wait in the corridor. The princess wondered who it could be. A few years ago, Prince Luke was skipping tutoring classes again. The tutor asked if it was time for him to go to class. The boy replied that he would rather learn from him. The man thought he was wrong. He is a very stern teacher. Luke used an air shield. He apologized for the intrusion and introduced himself, identifying himself as Duke Forrest's future son-in-law. The woman thought it was kind that he chose to introduce himself to her personally. She is the Duchess of Sasha. He risks infection, so he had better leave the room. The woman coughed up blood. The maid apologized. She had warned Prince Luke. The navigator explained that medicine is underdeveloped in this world, so treating illnesses with magic is not good. If the mage is ignorant of medicine, the spells don't work. The protagonist used special spells. He asked the navigation if it worked. As it turned out, the guy alleviated the symptoms, but the disease is in a late stage. If the spells were repeated 10 days in a row, the effect would be greater. Sasha felt much better, and a blush appeared. She thanked him. Looks like she got a wonderful son-in-law. Apparently, rumors about him had not reached the Duchess. Iris wanted to ask him about magic. She asked him a few questions. These were followed by more questions, which became too many. The Duchess explained that Iris wanted to become a healer. The Duke opened the door and said that he had asked that no one be allowed to see his wife. Iris had forgotten she had summoned him. He believes Luke disturbed his wife out of curiosity. The woman turned to her husband. She explained that the prince had used healing magic. Her fever had gone down, and her cough was gone. In time he would heal her completely. Gale did not believe this, for the disease was incurable. The Duke was shocked. Yael rejoiced at the news. If Luke was given 10 days, it should work. Yael said that if his father had known of his abilities, maybe he wouldn't have married him. The protagonist asked if he could leave for the academy in 10 days. The Duke doubted that he would be able to. Even the holy healer couldn't make it. Besides, he would miss the demon's summoning ceremony at the academy. Luke didn't know what he meant. Yael reminded him how they made contracts with dragons, but the protagonist decided to put it off. It takes a certain position of the stars, so you can only use the summoning circle once a year, and there is no way to postpone the ceremony. Gale asked what would happen if he interrupted his wife's treatment for 1 day so they could go to the ceremony. Luke thought it would be no big deal. It was unlikely that the symptoms would worsen much. Then the Duke would excuse him for a few days from the principal's office. The Duchess's stomach rumbled. She felt very embarrassed. She had hardly eaten lately. Luke was glad that her appetite had awakened. Gale invited Prince Yael and Sweet Luke to dinner. His appeal surprised the protagonist. The prince asked if Sasha would like to join them, at least for a little while. Lala missed her very much. He will make a magical barrier, then no one can get infected, so there will definitely be no danger. If so, she would like to see her daughters. The guy decided to fulfill her wish. He thought a light and nutritious meal was needed. Luke asked if they had rice. The Duke replied that they did, but he had heard that rice was bad for the stomach. Pastries are a staple of the local cuisine, and when they have a cold, they eat soup. The prince asked if he could tend to the kitchen. Yael resented this, he is a prince after all. But Luke wanted to prepare a meal that helps to regain his strength. The fact that the food would be good for Sasha pleased Gale, and he let him cook in their kitchen. When it was ready, he would call them over. In the meantime, let the Duchess rest. The boy did the cleaning. Iris asked why he used that spell again. The prince wanted to destroy germs not visible to the eye. The girl decided to escort him to the kitchen. In the kitchen, Luke saw wild buffalo meat. It is very expensive and is considered the most delicious here. The boy thought of a menu and began to slice the meat wastefully. He made cutlets with demi-glace sauce. He explained to the cooks what needed to be done. For the Duchess, Luke asked to make smaller portions. He went in using an air shield and asked if she was too tired. The woman was fine. She is only sitting at the table, so she asked not to worry. The protagonist advised her to step straight into the room if she was tired. Anna and Lala went to her mother's house. The prince stopped them and cast a spell. Now they could embrace. The girls hugged her. Luke had prepared light and nutritious meals for them. He asked them to taste and eat without hurrying. Everyone had a good first impression. MANHWA also wanted to taste what Prince Luke had prepared. The Duke didn't refuse either. The cooks had prepared with a reserve. If they wished, everything would be brought to them now. Everyone liked Luke's food. The Duke thought it was a traditional dish of the Vald Kingdom. Yael replied that his brother makes forays into the kitchen at night and cooks himself goodies. MANHWA realized where he was overweight from, thus embarrassing the guy. Gale asked how Sasha was feeling. The woman was fine, as if she hadn't been sick at all. Luke asked to be careful, it was still a temporary effect. Medium-level magic can't cure a disease right away. Lala realized that her mother was still sick. It turned out to be so, but the prince would certainly continue the treatment. MANHWA noticed that there was no guile in his words. He would indeed cure her. It was a relief for the Duke. Lala thanked Luke for that. As a token of her gratitude, she would play for him. Gale asked her to play later, since they were having a conversation. The Duchess said that it was so rare for a daughter to volunteer to play the piano herself. She wanted to listen. The protagonist liked the sound. The navigator told him that this piano was made by the best craftsmen among the dwarves and elves. Luke wanted to play it. After all, he had studied music before high school. Yael reminded him that he had also learned to play as a child. Lala wanted to hear him play. He decided to play a polonaise. The prince suggested that the girl sing along. She would just have to sing along with him. The two voices came together. The Duchess noticed that Lala enjoyed performing in front of an audience so much. The piano had a delightful sound. Luke could not tear himself away. He played a forgotten waltz by Chopin. Mie found the tune peaceful. Lala admired his playing. Even Anna said it wasn't bad. Yael asked when he had time to learn such a thing. It was a secret. According to the Duchess, several of her maids had contracted the disease while caring for her. She asked them to be examined as well. The Duke said that was not allowed. Luke replied that the examination would not trouble anyone and would not take long. But that was not the point. The navigator explained that the servants are the property of this family. If an aristocrat treated the maids, the Duke's reputation would suffer. Luke thought it was foolish. However, the Duke is confused. The protagonist said that the maids might be sick even if there are no symptoms yet. We need to check everyone in the mansion. Sasha thanked the prince for his concern. He asked her to just call him Luke. After all, pretty soon they would be a family. The woman remarked that was correct. MANHWA looked at him strangely. The navigator suggested that the girl was taking a new look at him. Guy hoped he had made a good impression. Yael asked how Luke would know if they were infected or not. The main character had a skill similar to an analysis spell. Yael thought that Luke was much more capable than him. His father had clearly underestimated him. The protagonist thought that he was the one overestimating him. He asked to be allowed to examine at least those present. Lala was the first. Luke thought she was very cute. He used spell analysis, but his skills weren't enough. The navigator advised him to increase his level by 1 step. The boy repeated the condition analysis. Lala was completely healthy, nothing was found. The girl was glad. Luke checked everyone. He found an infection in Duke Gale, but he's not sick. A hardened man has a strong immune system. He can beat the infection before it starts to spread. Luke asked not to be frightened like that again. They went into the sick maid's quarters. The protagonist used the spell. The maid felt better. The 2 he had cured. And they would still need treatment, but there was no need to worry. One of the girls said that their illness was incurable. Luke said not to worry. They'll get better. And let them take care of the duchess and the duke. The maids thanked the duke. He replied that they should not thank him, but their future son-in-law. Gale thanked the prince for everything. He offered him a hot bath, which Luke did not refuse. Yael was already in the bath and was about to leave. He still had a report to write. Lala wanted to take a bath with Luke. He felt awkward. Lala's maid tried to stop her and apologized. The navigator said he could let Lala into the bathing room. Luke allowed her to enter. The maid thought it was wrong of him to allow it. According to the main character, he has a little sister. They always went to the bathing place together. Then she entrusted the little mistress to his care. Both of them sang a song about frogs. They had a good time together. The maid thanked the prince. It had been a long time since she had seen her mistress so cheerful. She was told to tell him that the duke was expecting him. Gale thanked him for his concern for Lala. According to Yael, Luke is just used to socializing with their sister Lulu. The protagonist replied that he was not burdened by socializing with Lala. Duke called them to discuss who would accompany Luke to the academy. The boy didn't understand where the new rule came from if a chaperone wasn't required at the Dragon Academy. After all of Luke's peers go to the academy alone. He doesn't need a chaperone. He objected. The boy thought the Duke wanted to keep an eye on him. His brother's behavior angered Yael. Gale replied that he was not far from the truth. He thought that, given his previous behavior, a trustworthy man nearby wouldn't hurt. Yael was in agreement with him. He too was worried about Luke. The protagonist objected. He didn't need an escort. The maid Iris apologized for interfering in their conversation. She asked to be allowed to accompany Prince Luke. The Duke thought that she must surely want to get close to his family. Luke is his future son-in-law. If the maid goes with him, everyone will think she is related to them. Luke realized that no one cared about his opinion. The girl apologized. She introduced herself as Iris D. Michael, the eldest daughter of Count Michael. Gal assumed that she was looking for a way to breed with the ducal family, but the girl didn't think so. She only wanted to learn healing from Prince Luke. The girl didn't think it would be inappropriate. A chaperone could interfere with the protagonist's plans. If there was a beautiful girl by Luke's side, Yael wouldn't vouch for him. The Duke suggested postponing the conversation since it was already late. The boy couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that conversation. Lala opened the door and asked if he was asleep. The girl couldn't sleep. He suggested her to fight insomnia. Luke could smell her scent of sweet flowers. As it turned out, in this world, all people have their own scent. And it reflects their character. A bad person can't smell nice. The prince told her that she smelled like flowers. Lala replied that he smelled something delicious too. This pleased him. In the morning, Nyefa thanked them for everything. It was time for her to leave for the capital. And Yael will take Luke to the academy tomorrow. He asked them to be careful on the road. Luke's results at the Knights Academy were not very impressive. He was having a hard time. The problem was still the same. To lose weight, he must exercise more. Yael told him to run 10 laps. Duke's brother also told him to find him a chaperone, but he's still in doubt. Luke will accept whatever decision he makes. The office was allowed to enter. Iris again asked to be appointed as a chaperone. She wanted to learn healing from Prince Luke. The girl decided to go herself, despite the rumors about him. After all, she had been his daughter's companion at the Knights Academy for 3 years. She never fell below 5th place in her grades. She can cook too. Iris asked to be appointed as a companion. The navigator explained that from the looks of it, she wouldn't mind becoming his concubine if necessary. Even if she was fired later, Iris wanted to become a healer and benefit people. Luke did not expect such a thing. Her father probably wishes Iris a favorable marriage, but she has good intentions anyway. The navigator asked if he thought he'd rather have her around than the king's snitch. Luke asked to grant Iris's request. Amelia is very reserved, but the Duke insisted on the engagement. Gale admitted that it was actually his older brother. So it was the king who made the decision. He has no heir, and then there is his wife's illness. His brother himself chose the groom for his daughter. Luke did not understand why the Duke agreed if he had chosen a pig prince from a neighboring country. Gale admitted that if the rumors had been true, he was ready to banish him. But Lala he had conquered in an instant. Her special skill is recognizing bad intentions. He believes his daughter's abilities more than he believes the rumors. Luke must understand. Gale asked if he realized his task. The prince thought it was to secure the duchy with heirs. That was true, however the Duke's brother wanted more. In their country, abilities of magic are rare, and he has them. Therefore, he is expected to have at least 10 children. He was expected to take Anna and Lala as wives too. It was a tri-marriage. Luke thought he was just a breeding bull for them. Iris also has powers, so she can accompany Prince Luke, but only if she becomes his concubine. The prince realized that offspring, it was his responsibility. In a couple of years, Iris will marry someone anyway. She'd rather choose Prince Luke, at least she's sure to like him. But when asked if she liked fat guys, she said she would make him lose weight. That's how Iris became his companion. The next morning, Iris and Luke thanked Yael for agreeing to drive them. It wasn't hard for the guy. The Duke asked Luke to treat Amelia with understanding. Knowing her shyness, he would try to be gentler. Gale would be indebted to him for that. Gale will take part in the ceremony and return to them on Saturday. When he's finished treating the Duchess, he'll begin his studies at the academy. Luke, of course, will try to heal the Duchess, but he doesn't want to become a captive steer. Lala asked him to come back soon. He does not like the order here, but there is nowhere to go. There are bad rumors about him. And with 3 years of study, he has to change everything. Luke praised Waltz for moving 3 people at once. Yael said that 4 people have ridden him before. The protagonist grabbed Waltz some goodies. Yael was indignant because it was his dragon. Luke asked what he would do next. Tomorrow the king will return to the palace, and he will stay in the capital for a day. After an audience with the king will fly home. So they are saying goodbye here. Luke asked him to tell Lulu and Tilula his apologies for leaving without saying goodbye. Yael asked him if he longed for Lilithia. They seemed to love each other. The protagonist remarked that he was not reasoning like an heir to the throne. Yael would certainly inherit the kingdom. But above all, he is his brother. He doesn't want to watch him tormented by love. Luke thought his brother was overprotective. He had heard that Lulu was already engaged to the Marquis's son. Yael will put an end to these rumors when he proposes to her. She's free for now. Luke concluded that his brother was in love with Lulu and didn't think it was mutual. Nor did Yael ever show his feelings. His brother decided to tell him in confidence, which surprised the protagonist. He's in love with Aunt Karina, and it's also mutual. Aunt Karina is the youngest of his father's sisters. She is not yet 30. She was forced into marriage, but she beat her spouse to a pulp on the first day and returned home. It will take the father several years to change his grandfather's mind. Until then, he would be engaged to Lulu. Yael asked what he thought. He no longer cared about his feelings for Lulu. He didn't think anything. Yael asked if he would regret it later. Luke is dealing with his regrets on his own. Iris reported that Waltz was settled at the hotel. The brothers said goodbye. The boy asked what they would do. She wanted to buy some things. There are some good shops nearby. They looked at the goods. Iris told the prince to put the groceries back. No matter how much he buys, he won't get more than his allotted portion. He asked not to be called prince anymore. The girl thought he should be called lord. Luke thought it would be better if they lived on the ground floor. Iris explained that they were put on the 4th for security. Only aristocrats could go up there. Besides, extra exercise wouldn't hurt him. There was also hot water. It's all thanks to the magic plumbing. It's very economical. You only need to change the magic stones that turn into bones in time. They also have a cooling cupboard to store food. Now she would put their shopping in it. Luke thanked her. She must be tired. He told her to rest in her room. The girl thanked him and told him to ring the bell if he needed her. The boy lay down on the couch. Luke has 5 special abilities. But it is better that no one knows that the goddess gave him these skills. The navigator said he was good at magic. It's only natural, since he came here from another world. And Luke's flying through. The level in these skills is average. He asked the navigator why she was peeking. The guy asked which skill was the most useful. It was the increase in strength. At level 10, one could even enter superhuman mode. But the sudden increase in strength was harmful to the body, so it was not worth exceeding level 5 for now. With an 8th level in swordsmanship and a 10th in monk magic, he would be on par with the rest of the students. The master's dinner was ready. The girl hoped he would like it. It looked appetizing. He asked what about Iris. She explained that servants eat after the master. Luke thought she wouldn't have time to eat lunch. Lunch break here is an hour and a half, so she'll have time. The guy didn't want her to get sick, so he suggested eating at the same time when they were alone. Right now, too. The girl thanked him for his concern. She offered to meet Amelia since there would be no exams tomorrow. Luke didn't understand why he had to go to her, even though he was a prince and she was a duke's daughter. Wouldn't it be better if she took the initiative herself? Iris thought it was rude. It's impolite to force Mistress Amelia to come to him. And it's unlikely that she would come, given her reticence. He asked her to tell her maid that they had arrived. She should say that there was no need to observe formalities. They could just meet in the classroom. The girl was surprised. He was not at all what they had said about him. Luke asked if he could visit the temple tomorrow. Iris wanted to walk him, but he decided to go there alone. But that's impossible. The Duke ordered her to follow him unceasingly for the first time. If he ran away, she would be punished for it. He did not like this news. Then Luke offered to discuss their terms for the duration of their studies. He has 3 of them. The first was that his diet should consist not of rice and flour but of vegetables and meat, that is, lean meat and poultry with the exclusion of sugar. He wanted a hot bath every day. And the third step is exercise in the mornings and evenings. Iris asked what he was going to do in the morning. According to the navigator, she asked because Iris needs to make breakfast. Besides, she does not want to let him go out alone. The guy wanted to go out for a walk. The girl decided to go out together. They will go out at 6 o'clock, then 30 minutes of light exercise. At this rate he'll never get pumped. And here are Iris's conditions. He will actively lose weight, eat only what she cooks. The girl must always know where he is. Luke must study diligently and teach her, even if only a little at a time. The boy was glad that the room had a big bathtub. He would be able to bathe every day. By the way, this is a real privilege. Although the magic stones cost nothing, the bathtub itself is a luxury item here. Luke suggested that Iris take a bath before the water got cold. The girl obeyed. The navigator asked what he would do. Iris thought he would peek, so she washed herself hastily. The boy had no intention of peeping. She, on the other hand, volunteered to accompany him, as the navigator said, because she wanted to be his apprentice. When the Duke realized that the Iris family possessed healing magic, he granted them lands and a new title. However, it takes a lot of money to maintain the estate. Apparently, therefore, Iris's father decided to marry off his daughters. Their abilities made the marriages profitable. The girl came out of the bath. He was surprised at her speed and said she could take a longer bath. Iris thanked him for leaving her hot water. The girl asked why he didn't peek. Was she not attractive enough? Or not his type? She was afraid he would peek, or even molest her. Luke used to be accused of things he didn't do. He started peeping on the maids who slandered him simply because they were expecting it. Iris thought he didn't care about gossip and rumors, but it turned out not to be so. Luke asked her not to sell herself cheap. The girl didn't sell herself. There were a lot of guys matchmaking for her, but she rejected them all and is very expensive. The prince apologized. All in all, she need not fear him. Without her consent he will not touch her. He surprised the girl very much. She confessed that her sympathy for him was growing. Still, she is not ready for a close relationship yet. so he won't lay a finger on her. The girl asked him to consider that she couldn't bear it if he rejected her when she was ready. The first morning in the dormitory, Iris wished the master a good morning. It was time for them to go for a walk. It was now 6:30, he had half an hour to pack. The guy thought that on his day off, he might not have to get up so early. She asked what time he planned to get up. Luke only wanted to go to the temple before lunch. According to the navigator, Iris woke up at 5:30 to make him breakfast. That surprised him. Perhaps he would go for a walk with her after all. The girl asked if he still wished to sleep, but the prince decided to get up. He thought that it must be very difficult for her to get up this early. It turned out not to be so. Although light magic devices aren't too expensive, not everyone can afford them. The poorer people are used to rising early. Iris also goes to bed at 10 o'clock. Luke suggested that she go to the temple after breakfast. Iris asked if it was too early. She suggested a visit to the morning bazaar, and the lad gladly agreed. The place smelled delicious. Luke turned his attention to the roast meat of the boar, which he was not allowed to eat. The girl reminded him of his strict diet. But they were local food. Iris decided to eat one of each on the go. The vendor asked to come back for more. The navigator hinted to Luke that there were lots of yummy things around. Here's to being left unattended and eating his fill, right? The boy thought cruelly. The meat of the boar was indeed delicious. Iris surmised that it had been marinated in sake. The vendor said that his companion had guessed. They marinate the meat in sake all night. It was quite good. The temple already knew Iris. They came to perform the communion ceremony. Also, Luke would like to pray alone. Unfortunately, he couldn't stay in the prayer hall alone, and a donation must be made for the ceremony. The guy donated 2 million guineas. He asked that one half of it be given to the hospital, and the other half to the church orphanage. Iris said that 10,000 was enough. The amount is known to the prince. However, he doesn't donate to the temple but to the orphanage and hospital. The maid apologized. Luke asked not to apologize and was grateful for the advice. The nun asked to wait a little while. Mars, the pontiff of this country, came to see them. He apologized for keeping them waiting. When asked who the pontiff was, the navigator replied that in this world, nuns and one pontiff were considered the servants of the goddess. He thanked the fellow for such a generous donation to good causes. Luke is accompanied by Iris, but saw him here for the first time and asked him to introduce himself. They were joined by Mother Natasha. She had heard of him from the venerable Arya of the Kingdom of Volg. Luke was surprised that she knew Arya. He asked if he could send word to her through her. When he was sent here, he had not had time to contact her. His request was not refused. In the Kingdom of Volg, Luke was trained to make healing potions. He grew and sold medicinal herbs and donated half of the proceeds to an orphanage, which is when they became close to Arya. The boy asked the pontiff if he could use the prayer hall. There were hardly any visitors now, so he was allowed. Luke summoned her, and the goddess immediately apologized. He had much to ask her. Nareda apologized for not telling him sooner, but she hears all his wishes. The prince realized that she could look into his soul and he didn't know. Events were now not unfolding as she had planned. The goddess hadn't counted on Luke's dragon being killed and him being sent to another country. As it turned out, that girl was saved. She and his little sister had made some noise on television. The guy didn't expect this. After that plane crash, different channels aired TV programs with names like The Girl Flyer and The Life-Saving Flying Suit. The letter he sent to his sister did not go unnoticed either. His uncle started producing pajamas in the shape of a flying squirrel. The girls starred in an advert for the pajamas, and after that sales skyrocketed. Luke thought of his uncle as an entrepreneur from God. He concluded that she was doing well. The boy asked why he was so fat. Did she want him to lose weight assiduously? He had been sent to another country. He did not understand how he could now fight against the evil god. His anger is understandable. So for starters, Nareda would grant his every wish. Luke wanted an online ordering system. The goddess replied that it was impossible. The protagonist was indignant. She said she would grant any wish. But it was beyond her power. Although she could control the resources of this world by choosing it for rebirth, the goddess broke some rules, but offered a substitute. She could give Nabi access to information from his world. Luke asked who Nabi was. Suddenly the navigator spoke. That's what the goddess named her. though she would have preferred to be named by her master. Guy apologized for not knowing that. Though to his taste, Nabi is a good sounding name. If he likes it, she'll be fine with Nabi. Luke asked why the data from another world. The goddess explained that she would create a large workshop for him. She would also teach him how to make his own homunculus. He would work in the workshop instead. The boy planned how the workshop could be set up. Nabi would find information on how to make soy sauce, and the homunculus would do the work. Luke surmised that magic could also be used to shorten the cooking time. Nareda hadn't thought of that and praised him. However, she didn't expect anything else from him. The prince thanked the pontiff. He introduced himself. Mars asked to call his mother. Luke realized that he needed to create materials. He asked Nabi to find information in the other world on how to make soy sauce, shampoo, and medicine. The goddess complimented that the equipment for the workshop would be waiting in a dimensional pocket. In return, she asked to defeat the evil god. Guy entrusted Nabi with the workshop. She liked it. She promised to do everything. The prince allowed her to start at once. But first there were negotiations waiting for him. Luke apologized for keeping Iris waiting. The girl was praying the whole time. There was a request for her, and she asked what. The goddess addressed her. Iris did not understand what was going on. Luke asked not to be afraid. It was the voice of Nareda. The goddess apologized for scaring. She has a personal favor to ask of her. The fact is that she has given Luke a special commission, and she wants Duke Gao not to find out about anything. The girl was surprised that this was her request. According to Nareda, telling the Duke would be possible when Luke allowed it. She knew that the Duke had ordered her to report Luke's every move. Guy said Iris could just ration the information. In order to fulfill the goddess's assignment, he needs to improve quickly, and at times he will get into trouble. The girl knew that the Duke would definitely not be happy about the trouble. He expects Luke to start producing offspring after his studies. That's a problem. To tell the Duke the truth they could not. After all, he will demand details. He'll want to know what Nereid's assignment is. And he'll ask Mifa to see if we're lying. He doesn't like that either. But there's no way we can open up to the Duke now. Luke promised that he would teach her healing in return. He asked if she would. Iris replied that she, a mere servant girl, dared not refuse the goddess. To hear her voice, it was happiness for her. She would not tell the Duke about her, and would only relate to him what the Lord allowed. Even the pontiff will only hear the voice of the goddess a few times during his entire tenure. Iris understands that she is being honored. Nareda thanks her. In gratitude, she gives her her blessing. She will now be able to master high-level healing magic. The girl thanked the goddess and was pleased. At the shop, Luke asked for 10 kilos of large beans. Iris asked why he needed so many. She asked him to refrain from unnecessary spending. The Duke keeps track of what he spends his money on. Luke would not listen to her. According to the navigator, she clearly believes that the goddess has entrusted him to her care. Iris is determined to protect the prince at all costs. Luke whispered to her that one of the abilities given to him by the goddess was controlling time within the spatial pocket. Iris knew that only a few people possessed it. She asked what about the other skills. He couldn't say anything about the other skills, but this one must be kept secret as well. The salesman was waiting for them to make a purchase. The prince asked not to worry, the beans would stay fresh. The maid asked not to think of cooking them secretly and eating them. On the eve of MANHWA's departure from the Duke's house, she and Luke said goodnight to each other. The girl's heart was jumping out of her chest. She remembered that he had saved her life and helped Erica. The prince said she was attractive and a great cook. She also plays the piano. The girl asked what Erica had seen while she was interrogating her. The maid said that Luke was very kind. He even got along quickly with Lala. She handed her a portrait taken today. With crystal plates, images can be transmitted, and even MANHWA, despite her poor eyesight, can see the picture. Erica said she needed to rest. After all, they are leaving early in the morning. The girl looked at Luke's picture, thinking he was handsome. She felt uneasy for some reason. The maid suggested that Prince Luke was to blame and embarrassed the girl. Erica realized that the princess had fallen in love. MANHWA's chambers. The girl learned what love was. She was torn from her reverie by Amelia, who asked for advice. Iris wished the prince good morning. Today was the first day of school, and first they had a walk. He asked her if she was worried. It turned out that she was. Newcomers are conspicuous as it is, and she is also 3 years older than the other students. Besides, she is accompanying him, so she will definitely be eyed with curiosity. The girl assumed that Luke was calm. The boy replied that he was worried too. Besides, Amelia didn't wish to meet him. He is saddened. Iris admitted that he hardly met her either. She doesn't even go to dinner parties. Luke thought she was very withdrawn. But no, Iris had heard she was friends with other girls. And at dinners, they're always trying to match her up with other girls. So she shunned them. In the training building, the heroes were greeted by Eric, who will be their mentor. First, he decided to announce the 5 most important rules and let them sit in their chairs. Teachers do not care about students' titles. They do not pressure the students and treat everyone equally. They can be expelled for failing. No magic can be used outside of class. It is forbidden to use violence here. They understood everything. They decided to go to class. There was silence in the classroom. The teacher announced that the one they had heard so much about had arrived. Luke introduced himself as the very pig prince from a neighboring country. Everyone was shocked. The mentor thought he was the one who had confused him. Luke decided to start again. He then added that he had come here as the groom of the Duke's daughter. The boy asked which one was Amelia. Everyone was surprised that it was her fiancé. I mean, she's such an unsociable person. Luke wondered if she would hide from him. Nabi said it looked like it. And he's so nonchalant right now. She wondered what would happen next. Eric asked the students to calm down. He thought the prince would be able to meet the bride at recess. Luke asked to still point out Amelia to him. He came here in complete ignorance. Doesn't even know what his fiancée looks like. Amelia sat in the back row by the window. His seat would be right behind her. The guy said hello to her. The girl ignored it. Nabi surmised that she was just shy to talk to the boy. By the way, Amelia uses magic to change her appearance. The jewelry around her neck is a magic artifact, so her true face he can't see. It seems she only goes to class with this necklace. Luke didn't understand why such subterfuge. Someone knocked on the door, and the tutor allowed entry. It was the principal, who apologized for interrupting the lesson. Eric asked what was wrong. He brought in 2 more new students. It was the first time the tutor had heard of them, and didn't understand why there was such a rush to enroll. He had not even been notified. They were asked to come in. They were 2 girls. Miefa and Erica stood in front of them. Luke was shocked. He was going to be contacted by magic. He told the teacher that Duke Gale was calling him. The headmaster surmised that it was just about that. Guy told the Duke that he was in class now and asked if he had an urgent matter. Gale apologized. He had just heard from his brother, that is, the king. He offered to contact the prince after class. Luke thought he must have meant to announce Miefa's arrival. The Duke asked how he knew, and who had reported the arrival before him. The fact was that Miefa and Erica were now standing right in front of him. The Duke was surprised that they had traveled so quickly. He decided to reschedule the conversation. The teacher said that the principal seemed to want to clarify the situation. The principal apologized for having to interrupt the lesson. In the morning, the king's decree came. Lady Miefa and her maid Erica will study with them. And they were to be enrolled in the same class as Luke. Eric found this decree very unusual. Admittedly, this was also the first time the headmaster had encountered such a thing. However, he thought that His Majesty had a good reason. Miefa was glad that they had finally met again. Luke remembered her saying that she wouldn't enroll because of her vision problems. The girl wanted to confess. Erica supported her. The thing was, Prince Luke had called her attractive. Yes, he had said so. But the guy didn't understand, so why let everyone know it? His words are very important to her. Miefa asked to say them again. Luke honored her request. She concluded that he had not lied then. The boy replied that it was actually impossible to lie to her. The princess remembered this. She confessed that she wanted them to date and someday get married. The proposal from the princess surprised everyone. Nabi was as confused as he was. Luke asked her why she was suddenly talking about marriage. Was it an order from the king? The girl replied that it was not. Since the day she met him, she has been thinking about him all the time. Her heart ached with longing. And then Erica said that she must be in love. Miefa immediately realized that the maid was right. She seemed to be in love with him. The boy was surprised. He said that they had only spent half a day next to each other. The princess replied that it didn't matter. The memory of their meeting made her heart flutter. It seems he can't resist under such pressure. Since Luke is engaged to Amelia and politics are involved, he won't be able to give her an answer immediately. MANHWA was worried about that too. But then Amelia complained to her that she couldn't bring herself to even say hello to him. That's why she decided last night to enter the academy. Amelia has a hard time even communicating with her own mother. And MANHWA thought it would be better for everyone if he married her. In the morning she rushed to her father. For the first time in her life, the girl asked for something for herself. The princess asked to be allowed to leave, for she dreamed of marrying Prince Luke. The king knew that Luke was already engaged to Amelia. The girl declared that she would not agree to marry anyone else. Her father decided to arrange for her to enter the academy if the girl's intentions were so serious. So she came. Luke wondered if Duke Gao knew about it. He recalled that he was here because of his endeavors. Guy had a feeling that the Duke wouldn't like all this. The protagonist asked if it frightened her that evil tongues called him the Pig Prince. As it turned out, no matter what anyone gossips about, to her what kind of person is on the inside is more important than looks. The principal announced that class was about to begin. He suggested that their fascinating conversation be postponed until later. MANHWA apologized. The princess thought she wasn't good enough for him. Luke was flattered by her confession. However, he would prefer not to rush into marriage and start with at least a couple of dates. All the students were surprised. It seemed that no one was going to spare his feelings. Luke turned to the headmaster. Since this was about the Duke and the King, it would be better to talk without witnesses. He asked if he and Amelia and MANHWA could speak privately. He allowed them, even though the conversation was not related to study. But there will be a lecture on magic summoning soon, so they must complete the conversation before the second class starts. Iris asked to bring her along. They are nobles after all, even though they are students. MANHWA thanked the prince for taking her feelings favorably. She asked to be addressed on a first-name basis. This was unexpected for him, and he is flattered. MANHWA doesn't see herself from the outside, but she is very sweet and kind, and even with a unique talent. The princess said that her ability to see lies usually repulses everyone, and he doesn't see it as a flaw. People around her sometimes feel awkward, but Luke thinks it's not that hard to be sincere. The girl is glad she had the courage to confess. Except that the prince had already spent 2 nights with Iris. She wondered if a bond had developed between them. The boy replied that they had nothing. The princess was glad she had time. According to Erica, the princess learned that he was accompanied not by a butler but by a pretty girl. Immediately began to be jealous and kept repeating that we must hurry, otherwise his engagement can no longer be cancelled. Mi felt ashamed, because she had asked her not to tell anyone. Nabi explained that the princess was in a hurry because she was afraid he would fall in love with Iris or Amelia would charm him with her beauty. She was afraid that she would have no place beside him. It seems that the princess expects to be his only lady of the heart. And Erica appeared to add fuel to the fire, and reminded him that Iris and Amelia were quite attractive. Erica has her finger in her mouth. Luke suggested they start. They didn't have much time. He informed the Duke that they were allowed to skip the first class. Gao concluded that Luke had accepted MANHWA's offer. He already knows. Guy decided it would be better to make the one who loved him happy than to marry Amelia against her will. The Duke's already taken a liking to him, so he wouldn't just give up. Luke noticed that he was beginning to bargain. He and the king have reached a compromise. When he graduates from the academy, he will receive the title of Marquis, on the condition that he takes MANHWA as his wife. And he asked the prince to make Amelia his concubine. Amelia realized that it was a request, not an order. Nabi said that if he refused, Amelia would be humiliated. The boy hesitated for a moment. He asked what if no groom was found for Amelia in the remaining 3 years of her studies. The Duke decided not to guess ahead. Gale wished his daughter happiness. But when the time came, he would choose a bridegroom for her. Their line must not be cut off. Luke realized that for aristocrats this was commonplace. But Amelia suffers from a great deal of shyness. There is much the Duke can understand. However, she is obliged to fulfill her duty to her family. The lad thought him impenetrable. For the past 5 years, Gao has searched unsuccessfully for a solution. If Amelia became his concubine, she would not need to be forced into motherhood either. The Duke hoped that he could cure her and give him heirs. The prince knew that fear of men could not come out of nowhere. The cause must first be discovered. Luke took Amelia as his second bride before they graduated. If he could heal her and they had a child, he would recognize him as the successor, and he would inherit their duchy. Just need to consult with Princess Maitha. Luke asked to be given some time. The girl asked if the prince would really do that. He said he wouldn't marry someone who didn't love him. You can't force a sweetheart, even after marriage. You can hardly get along with a girl who even hides her appearance from everyone. Natalie, Alasis, Amelia's maid, realized that they had noticed the pendant. If things are left as they are, Amelia will still be afraid of people 3 years from now. He asked if she would allow her painful reticence to be cured. Natalie asked if shyness was treatable. According to Luke, they need to use healing magic and start soon. Then in 3 years they'd be done. In any case, he would need Amelia's own help. He asked what she thought. The girl was silent. The boy added that he didn't need anything from her. However, if she didn't start fighting her fear, it would only get worse. Amelia apologized. When she is engaged, she will stop being harassed by other suitors. Once she's healed, she can find love. And he promises to break the engagement at once. The girl thanked him for his concern. When she heard that her mother was on the mend, she breathed a sigh of relief. And Lala and Anna are happy since they can hug their mother again. She thanked from the bottom of her heart. The girl wanted to come to him herself, but it was as if she was frozen with fear. But there was no need to make sacrifices. Luke came up with the idea of putting each other on the list of close friends. They'll start with friendly correspondence. It's not that scary after all. Amelia hesitantly agreed. The girls admired him. Iris's sympathy for him was growing. Luke concluded that she understood nothing. So they would announce their engagement to Miefa and Amelia. And 3 years later, after graduating from the academy, they will think about getting married. According to Miefa, although she is of little use, she will try her best to be a good spouse. From the get-go. Erica whispered something to the princess. Miefa told the prince that his father wanted to see him at the royal castle. That's right, the boy needs to confess to him. But first he must stop by to see the duke. The girls realized that to continue treating the duchess. The prince added that it would not take much time. Miefa would convey so. The first lesson ended, he suggested going to class. Today the teacher wanted them to work in groups. Luke, Miefa, and Amelia will be in one group. Let the others make their own arrangements. One student resented it. He wanted Amelia to be in his group like before. Nabi revealed that the young man knows what Amelia really looks like, and hopes that the friendship will one day grow into a marriage. Luke remarks that he is indeed upset. But it was unlikely that Amelia shared his feelings. Nabi thought so too. He's the Duke's fourth son, and he's not going to inherit. That's why he was so excited to be in the same class as Amelia. He's not a bad man. Luke hesitated. The tutor replied that the decision was made by the headmaster, not up for discussion, and hoped for understanding. With the breakdown into groups, he was lucky. That way, there was no fear of someone attacking Miefa out of fear of her ability. The boy asked Nabi what would happen if they sent an assassin disguised as a student. She asked him to trust her. Nabi uses the Yggdrasil system and will check his surroundings. Yggdrasil was created by the gods of this world to store information about all living things. And she can look at the data stored in the system. The students in his class are not suspicious. Luke said to keep him informed. The ceremony that starts tomorrow only happens once a year. It is held at their academy, the king's castle, the temple, and the guild. Tomorrow the freshmen participate. The day after tomorrow, the second and third years, and on the last day, the common people. The prince was surprised that ordinary people would also be let in. Eric suggested moving on to the briefing. A summoned creature makes a contract with its host and feeds on its magical power. The summoner is solely responsible for the creature. The host pays for the summoned creature's quarters. Creatures above rank B are subsidized by the state. If the summoned creature is small, it lives with the host. The summoned creature becomes the master's familiar. Abuse of the familiar is forbidden. Once summoned, the host decides whether to contract or discard the familiar. Freshmen usually summon low-rank creatures. There have been cases where a low-rank familiar has harmed even experienced mages. Sometimes the master, even, has been killed. Students should take this seriously. The teachers will be by their side. They will tell them if there is a familiar that they should give up. That's it. After lunch, they will change into their sports uniforms and gather at the stadium. Luke suggested that Iris go to the dining room, but she said she couldn't. He reminded her that she had said that for 500 guineas the food there should be good. One must try it at least once. The girl understood, but everyone would immediately start discussing the pig prince and pointing fingers at her, but still. He's pretty cheeky. And you can't go in the dining room anyway. To keep his diet in check. He's not used to that. He asked where Amelia usually eats lunch. Natalie, the maid, always eats in her room. Luke realized that no one would go to the dining room. Erica asked if he could dine with Princess Miefa. The thing is, she can't cook. He interrupted her with the words that there were cooks in the royal castle, so Erica didn't need to cook. Erica would eat in the dining room by herself. She asked if Iris could be entrusted with the care of Mistress Miefa. Luke asked what she thought. Iris doesn't know what princesses like, but she'll try to please. And have Erica join them too. Cooking another batch wouldn't be a problem for her. Erica was grateful. Amelia was asked if she would like to have lunch with them too. Natalie can cook, right? If she and Iris teamed up, it would take much less effort and time. Amelia asked not to worry about her. To her question, Natalie replied that it would be much easier for her to cook with Iris. Her diet will be more varied. It would be much easier for them to buy groceries, do the dishes, and cook. Amelia agreed. Erica had heard that young men were reluctant to be allowed into the girls' dormitory, so they would gather in Mr. Luke's room. The boy was surprised by her grip. Iris was going to serve something light for lunch. The boys were grateful to her. Luke was scared to imagine how much it would cost in Japan. Nabi thought he was mumbling like an old man. But she acted as if they were already married. The girl explained that all the dishes were dietary, and the portions were small too. Nabi too thought she was restless. Miefa apologized to the guy and Amelia for coming down like a snowball. Luke replied that it was no big deal. True, he was a little nervous in the presence of 5 girls. Amelia turned to Miefa. She was even glad that they had come. Alone, it would have been difficult for her to decide to take any action. The girl asked if the Lord didn't care what she really looked like. The prince knew he would be lying if he said he wasn't interested. But did she fear that seeing her real face would make him lose his head? According to Amelia, it probably won't come to that, but his attitude toward her will change. Luke admitted that he thought she was overconfident, but he had realized that everyone down to the Duke's guards was falling for her. Miefa noticed that they were throwing such looks. Amelia wondered if it was true and apologized for them. She tried not to appear in public, but sometimes she was forced to go to balls and dinners without this necklace. Nabi explained that Amelia is not only known for her beauty, she is also honored for her good deeds as a sister of mercy. Luke thought that unlike him. The girl apologized for her deception anyway. The prince asked to stop apologizing. As Miefa said, form should not be more important than content. He seemed to have reassured her. Amelia was glad. It was time for the first training session. Today they would start. With 10 laps of the field. Luke was surprised that it would be running like that right away. It's a knight's academy. He has to work hard to meet at least the minimum fitness requirements. Luke understood everything, but it was hard for him. The boy was using magic, but the teacher noticed it. The woman said it was forbidden to help himself with magic and asked him not to cheat. It seems like the trainer has a magic sense. Luke raised the stamina skill to level 5. It's still like he's carrying sandbags on his back. He needs at least level 7 stamina to make it easier. The prince didn't think that just 2 points would help. As it turned out, from level 6 onwards, the scale changes. According to Nabi, at level 10, even with his current weight, he would be able to jump up to the first floor of the school. This surprised Luke. But as long as his physical condition does not match this level, he has low physical performance. Even Miefa is ahead of him. We need to step it up. The peers laughed at the prince. He flopped, and it surprised no one. Miefa asked them to stop. He's trying his best. They should be ashamed of themselves. The boy apologized and considered himself pathetic. Luke thought it was a nightmare. Nabi said that if he hadn't flunked out of the Rider Academy, none of this would have happened to him. Lesson 4, Magic Control. The teacher saw that Luke's grade sheet showed the highest grade in Magic Control. He asked what his skill level was now. In the prince's country, it was thought that only fools talked about their skills. Are the orders different here? Eric replied that they were the same. In the class, they work in groups. Therefore, if he has a high level in magic control, he will be able to help those who are lagging behind. MANHWA gave the example that she had poor eyesight since childhood. Therefore, she was not going to study in the academy, and she can barely control magic. Luke volunteered to help MANHWA. The teacher asked to ask if anything was unclear. So, first they trained within the group. Luke undertook to help, but he would probably explain differently than the teacher. The girl asked him to explain it to them in his own way. And Iris had wanted to be his student for a long time in general. The prince inquired what her level was. The maid replied that such a thing couldn't be told. The guy didn't understand how one could teach without knowing the level of the student. She could show him her skill chart. According to the girl, it is like going naked in the street. When asked, she said that she has a 4, but will soon get a 5. And Luke has a 6th, about to get a 7th. Iris was surprised and repeated his words loudly. He grabbed her cheeks as she yelled to the whole class and gave away her mentor's secrets. The maid apologized. The prince felt that she needed practice. Raising the level can only be done so. Luke thought that she and MANHWA had monk magic as their primary type. The princess was surprised. The boy was afraid he had said the wrong thing. He had, rightly, decided that because of the color of her hair. But she possesses water, lightning and fire magic. The protagonist realized that it was not going to be easy. Fire and water were difficult to combine, as was water with lightning. The girl thought she wouldn't be able to do it. He asked not to jump to conclusions. The guy decided to combine the elements. This delighted Iris. Luke thought that MANHWA couldn't see well. However, the girl saw the green mixed with the red. She assumed that was how the spell became stronger. The princess saw magic as colored spots, and discerned human emotions the same way, by coloration. Nabi noticed that this ability was inherent in albino humans. MANHWA asked him to tell him some tricks for controlling magic. Luke replied that practice and more practice. The girls were surprised. He meant that one should practice even in one's sleep. You can develop monastic magic with a household spell of light. The strength of the glow depends on the amount of magical energy. It is even possible to make it invisible. The spell is simple, so it is suitable for constant training. If you build up your hand, you can soon maintain the glow for a very long time. He had already held it for 8 hours. For fire magic, a heat spell would be suitable, for water cooling, for wind blowing, for lightning discharging, and for darkness immersion. The exercise isn't difficult, but it's effective. For earth magic, he thought he would have to create pebbles. In general, it is very useful to practice household spells. When they have success with their main type of magic, other types can be practiced. Iris was pleased. Luke offered to try each of the spells. During dinner, the girls discussed an upcoming event with the summoning of a familiar. There was a knock on the door. They apologized for the wait. Behind her stood the king, who apologized for the unexpected visit. He was with his wife. He was anxious to meet Luke. The lad was surprised that they had rushed over for him. They let them in. The king said it was a private visit, so no need to worry. He's Zeno, MANHWA's father. And he is here as a father, not a ruler. The man thanked Luke for saving MANHWA from an attack by brigands. The prince asked not to bow. The boy introduced himself, and said it was such an honor to see him. The king was told that Luke had agreed to marry MANHWA, so he wanted to meet in person. So he showed up unannounced. The queen apologized for bringing her too. Zeno was worried whether the prince realized what powers MANHWA had. The boy thought, he about her recognizing lies. The princess thought such concern was already unnecessary. The queen asked her to discuss it, otherwise she herself would regret it later. The woman asked Iris to leave them alone. Luke was worried because Iris accompanied him everywhere. The king felt that she should not know what they would be talking about. They had his best interests at heart. But if he wanted, Iris could stay. Nabi figured he was walking on thin ice. But so far so good. When asked, Luke replied that MANHWA's abilities don't embarrass him. She is a very nice girl, dating her is an honor for him. The princess was very pleased. From her smile, the king realized that no other proof was needed. Speaking frankly, as a parent, he had always been worried about MANHWA's talent. All the siblings had grown to fear her over time. Lately, they hardly socialize at all. Luke realized that people lie all the time. The ruler asked if he cared. There was simply no reason for a guy to lie to MANHWA. She loved him despite his reputation. He would try to be worthy of her trust. Luke had something he wanted to ask as well. He had heard that the king himself was keen to have him as a son-in-law. Was it because there were few people in their country who had inherited monk magic? Zeno replied that no. More precisely, he wanted to be related to someone who had inherited the abilities of 5 types of magic at once. Besides, the ruler knew that the prince was not at all as he was said to be. He knows how to use magic in alchemy and healing. It seems he had been trained by none other than the great sage and sorcerer Edward. Luke realized that he knew everything about him. Information about a mentor was supposed to be kept secret. The boy assumed they had a spy in their court. As it turned out, his father knew all about the spy. Apparently, they know about the healing potion too. They did know about it. And the king wasn't going to demand anything from him. His father had tried to hide the story, hadn't he? Luke was surprised. So his father had deliberately sold him to another country. The prince was offended. Zeno asked if it was true that the guy was preparing potions for church healers in large quantities, also doing charity work. A prince helping to heal people. This surely strengthens the bond between church and authority. If Luke wishes to continue the work, the king has no objection. If he wishes to prepare potions in their country, he will support him wholeheartedly. The king will not hinder anyone who is willing to care for his daughter. Luke surmised that talk of offspring would soon come up. Zeno replied, only if it pleased him. This was a question he allowed MANHWA to confide to him. The girl was embarrassed. She asked not to pay attention. Her father was joking like that. The king did not realize what he had said. Nabi explained that when MANHWA asked her father to authorize a relationship with him, her strategy was this. The princess kept saying that she would be able to bear many children and set an example for Erica and Emilia. Luke was shocked. He asked if Erica was aware of it. As it turned out, she certainly was. Even though he is unattractive to her, in her eyes the guy is a real benefactor. When MANHWA becomes queen, Erica will receive a title no less than Marquis. Luke decided to pretend like he didn't know anything. He replied that they were so kind to him. The king remarked that otherwise the prince would probably flee the country. He thought that with such magical talents the lad would be able to earn money everywhere. However, the ruler is willing to give him complete freedom. In return, he only asks him to act for the good of his state. The protagonist replied that it was good if he trusted him that much. The prince will work as hard as he can. But first he asked to be allowed to undertake his treatment. The man was surprised. Luke explained that the queen seemed to be well, but he was not quite. The king had been suffering from a fever for a long time, hadn't he? The prince thought it was a symptom of a lingering illness. The boy used magic. It's a start, but it should get better. Zeno thanked him. He thought Luke was a talent. And there wasn't a word of truth in the gossip. The boy explained that the rumors about him were not far from the truth. The king remarked that he was emphatic, just like his mother. As Luke guessed, their spy was Tilila's maid. She told the king that the prince had never once molested her. Why? Luke explained that she had always been kind to him. He wanted to remain good in his little sister's eyes, but all of his antics in the past were revenge for bullying. MANHWA stated that peeping was still indecent. If Luke wanted to see a girl's charms, let him look at her. She's the only one the protagonist needs now. The king advised him to remember to eat well, and the girl resented him. Luke got out of the tub contentedly. Iris concluded that he was very fond of taking a bath. He did. His legs were so sore after running. The guy wanted a massage. That made the girl happy. But the prince wanted a massage with healing magic. The maid thought it was a great chance. Iris realized that his teacher was Edward. As it turns out, the teacher tells everyone that he doesn't take people as apprentices. It's a secret. The girl asked why. He explained that people die too quickly. The maid realized this. Luke decided to demonstrate the massage technique on her. To be more effective, she would need to warm up. This technique requires an entry level of water magic or monk magic, and a third level of magic control. She was surprised. Luke noticed that there was inflammation on her leg, the muscles tense. He poked at the spot. The maid felt the pain. He said to imagine the aqua healing pulsing in her fingertips. He asked if she felt. The girl felt pleasant. Luke asked to try to switch on the magic sense. The spell affects like tiny circles. This technique is quite complicated. He asked again what she was feeling now. The girl exclaimed that her muscles had completely stopped whining. Now it was her turn. She decided to try. The prince advised her not to direct the magic deep into her body. Release the spells one at a time without exerting any effort. The girl noticed that this was difficult. The guy had an idea. She uses an air spell for about 10 minutes when she dries her hair, doesn't she? It's the same here. Iris was surprised. She seemed to understand the technique and would try it again. But that day, Iris never succeeded. The maid apologized to him and said that he was very good at explaining things, but she still couldn't make it work. Luke explained that it wouldn't work right away. He too needed practice at some point. He thanked the massage. This technique is also useful for practicing magic control. Iris will do her best. She offered to do a little practice. The prince was surprised since it was a workout after a bath. It was Luke's weight loss plan. According to the girl, he will go again, no big deal. They will pump abs. The protagonist thought he wouldn't be able to lift once. Iris realized this. She decided to hold his legs up. He started to get the hang of it. He was very uncomfortable. In the morning, someone came to him unexpectedly and wished him good morning. Luke asked who it was. In front of him stood MANHWA, who introduced herself as his wife. But the boy objected, they are not married yet. He asked why she was here so early. In fact, Erica let slip that they go for walks in the mornings. MANHWA didn't think it was some kind of secret. Luke concluded that she wanted to go for a walk with them. She did. She could use more movement too. And while they walk, Iris will make breakfast. Erica thanked her. Luke remembered that today was the summoning ceremony. MANHWA was looking forward to it. He asked what kind of surname she wanted. The princess wanted someone she could sleep with in her arms. That is, a pet. The girl asked who the lord would want. The boy already knew it would be Nabi. At the academy, the principal announced the beginning of the long-awaited conscription ceremony. He asked the students to look carefully at what should be done. First, they should direct a stream of magical energy into this ball. The summoning would begin when the ball glowed and soon a creature would appear who would like their magical energy. He asked to look at the dragon that appeared. It was a wyvern. He thanked her for responding. Since it was a female, he would name her Pippi. Giving the familiars a name strengthens their bond. So, he showed them the order of operations. The teachers will help them from here. He must have been dying to fly Pippi. They would start the ceremony with the knights from grade F to grade A. Luke was surprised that there were so many knights around the conscription site. Nabi said that usually peaceful creatures respond to the summoning. However, sometimes one of them would go on a rampage. Then the knights and teachers would have to provide security. Unexpectedly, the king himself attended the ceremony. He probably wants to see to it too. Guy surmised that His Majesty wanted to keep an eye on Mifa. The last one was the A class of mages. To Iris came a red slime. Natalie got a stuffed rabbit. Erica got a silver wolf. And Emily got a magic hair. All were sent back. Princess MANHWA placed her hands on the ball. A stream of magic was directed into it. A creature has appeared that no one has ever seen before. It was the sacred carbuncle. The king was glad for his daughter. The girl asked Luke to help her choose a name for it. The prince refused, for she must name it herself. But she can't get a good look at him, so she doesn't know what name would be suitable. Luke described that he is about 30 centimeters at the withers, looking like a fox. His ears and tail are long and fluffy, and his fur is golden. There is a sort of jewel on his forehead. She asked what kind of gem it was. The prince replied that it was bright red. It must be spinel. The princess named it so. In their and neighboring countries, sacred animals appeared at the invocation only 3 times. That's what royal blood means. Surely the prince will not fail either. The last one to summon the familiars is Prince Luke A. Wolg. The boy resented the teacher's exasperation. He proceeded to summon. The students didn't see the creature and thought the summoning didn't work. Afterwards they noticed a pixie fairy. It was Nabi. This made them laugh. Luke didn't understand how dare they mock the cute fairy. Nabi hid herself. The boy asked why she got in there. The fairy didn't want to come out. Everyone was laughing at her, so she decided to sit there. I think she was really mad. Nabi said sometime. They had been waiting for this moment ever since they met the goddess. Suddenly, at the summons, a dragon appeared. Everyone was shocked. It was Diana, who licked her master. The guy asked her to stop and use purification. It turned out to be Diana, his recently deceased dragoness. The goddess helped her to be reborn in a new body. The king asked if she had appeared at his call. Luke replied that she had. They had gone through a naming ceremony long ago, so she had heard him. Apparently, she belonged to one of the ancient species of black dragons. Diana noticed something amiss. The large head of a creature that was cramped in their place appeared. It couldn't fit in here. Who chose the summoning hall? The prince thought it was a dog. The creature was angry. It would not allow itself to be laughed at. Luke wondered if it could read minds. Diana wanted to strike it. The creature was surprised, for no one had bellowed at him in thousands of years. His name was Fenrir, and this is her newly born child. The child is weak and can't even drink her milk. The boy thought that she had decided to use the summoning to come here so that he could feed the child with magic. His cleverness pleased the creature. But Luke already has 2 contracts. The king asked Mistress Fenrir to let him make a contract. Fenrir thought it was a joke. Luke asked her to be nice. It was the king. The prince suggested that it was the king who was needed for the contract. She asked if she could say in front of everyone. Luke wanted to know. According to Nabi, it's about his magic. He has a special magical energy. Since he came from another world, the protagonist is able to make a contract even with a creature that cannot become a familiar to an ordinary person. Fenrir approached the king with the words that let the boy make a contract with her offspring. If her child died, she would wipe his country into powder. The prince was surprised at such news. He agreed. The creature asked for a name sooner rather than later. Luke decided to call it Hattie. We should probably come up with something better. But Fenrir liked the name. Nabi explained that he was too weak to consent. The contract would have to be forced. The prince assumed that the goddess could do it. It seemed so to her too. Now Fenrir was calm. She asked to keep an eye on him properly. 3 familiars for the first time in history. That's a lot of trouble. Luke asked how Diane was feeling. The dragoness asked if the host was even in one piece. Guy wondered if she was reasonable. Diana didn't understand where the beastie had gone. She was able to talk to it like Fenrir. Nabi said that it seemed she, like him, retained some of her memories. In addition, Diana will be able to use her previously accumulated knowledge. She's from ancient dragons, so 1,400 years of her memories would be useful to them. Luke was surprised. He concluded that she was already an adult. Nabi explained that ancient dragons lived for hundreds of centuries. By human standards, she was now about 14 years old. And she had learned the human language from an old dwarf she had once saved from a werewolf. Diana seemed to be visiting the village for some delicious sake. Luke realized she was addicted to the bottle. Apparently, the dwarves were happy to treat their rescuer and didn't mind her visits. Dragons absorb excess energy around them. When an area is freed of excess magic, dangerous magical creatures leave and people are less likely to get sick. The prince thought, thanks to the temples, wielders of large magical stones can't approach towns and villages. She replied that the dwarves lived in a tiny settlement near the mines, so there was no temple there either. The boy realized that the dragon's presence was good for them. Diana asked the master what had happened. He explained that the Fenrir that had been appearing here was their friend. The dragoness didn't think so, she is a deity after all. Also very strong. Her cub is also his surname, so they should be friends. Diana thought she'd be enough on her own. And he's just a weakling. Luke told Nabi to make a saddle. He wants to get the hide of the antelopes that Diana likes. The boy asked where they should fly. There are some herds 30 kilometers away in the swamps. Luke decided to go there. The king turned to him and asked him to wait a moment. Zeno wanted to have a private conversation with him. The prince replied that he would fly off now on some business, and then they would talk. The king was surprised. He asked if he could fly the dragon. The lad replied that it was too dangerous without a saddle. The ruler exclaimed that he had studied to be a dragon rider, so he could handle it. The prince was surprised that the guards let him go. The king assumed he would be told off afterwards. Diana asked where she should fly. Luke pointed toward the forest. She understood him. The protagonist was surprised at the speed. King Zeno was delighted. The boy reminded him that they were on a hunt. He told Diana that there was a herd of antelope ahead. To avoid damaging the hides and meat, they should aim for the heads. One carcass would be hers. The dragoness was overjoyed and obeyed her master. The king noticed that they were hunting new antelopes. This turned out to be the case. The ruler declared that they were dangerous. Luke had tried such a hunt before, and the dragon was not afraid of antelopes. The protagonist asked the king to hold on tight. The dragon shot down the antelopes. Both admired Diana. Zeno admitted that he didn't like animals being killed, but he enjoyed the hunt. He asked if Luke would take him again. The fact that the king was asking rather than ordering was nice. Now that business was done, they flew home. A buffalo steak was prepared. The king apologized again for Luke having to cook for everyone again. The boy replied that it was no big deal. MANHWA turned to the prince. According to her, the students who had dragons as their familiars would be transferred to the Dragon Rider Academy. He had studied there before, after all. The girl thought that he would also transfer. Luke explained that all princes in their country are given a dragon egg as a child. Therefore, they were not allowed to choose their place of study. The king replied that it was the same for them. He asked if the prince didn't like it at the Dragon Academy. There, Luke had chosen martial arts as his first specialization and combat magic as his second. But they defiantly replaced the first with healing. And he wants to be a battle mage, that's all. Zeno would like to see the guy as a dragon rider, but respects his intentions. Luke thanked him. The prince remembered that the king wanted to discuss something and asked what it was. The ruler immediately remembered and asked if the lad planned to return to his homeland on occasion. He asked because King Julius wished to see him. Luke realized that his father wanted Diana and Fenrir, not otherwise. According to the king, although the boy is already his future son-in-law, by getting an ancient dragon and a baby Fenrir as his familiars, he can count on a ducal title. MANHWA realized that the prince could stay in their country. Luke, of course, is attached to the family. But here, too, he is considered part of the family. To be honest, he didn't want to leave. Luke reassured the princess with this. Carmia, the first wife of King Zeno, asked if it was time for them to have a reception in honor of his engagement to MANHWA. She hoped that he would take her daughter Alice to be his wife too. MANHWA thought it was a great idea. She wanted to get the engagement started as soon as possible. She could not be stingy, lest she give cause for gossip. Mother noticed that Luke was unhappy about something. The princess asked him what was the matter. He remembered her saying that she didn't like the pompous weddings of aristocrats. The girl admitted that she did. Only she was very afraid that he would change his mind, so she was in a hurry. The king had other things to worry about. How could King Julius not decide to take Luke away by force? The prince offered to call him together. He wanted to talk in person. His father had been waiting for this. He asked if Zeno was hiding from him. The protagonist asked his father to be polite. He is talking to the king after all. Julius knew that the son had summoned excellent familiars and added that at home the lad could get the title of duke. He asked to return soon. Luke noticed that his father was too insistent. The lad did not want to go home. The father surmised that Zeno had sent him a beautiful daughter to lure the dragon away from him and thought him a fraud. Luke stated that he and MANHWA began dating before the summoning ceremony. If anyone needed his familiars, it was his father. The king replied that he was trying for him. He was pushed away by a woman who turned to Luke. He recognized the mother. According to her father, Amelia had cried her eyes out. Let her at least think of her mother. The boy realized that she was crying because he had secretly expelled him from the country. Luke told her not to worry. He's doing fine. Everyone here is nice to him. He's dating a girl who loves him. He has no plans to go back. The woman realized he was there of his own free will. The princess is an interrogator of the highest rank. MANHWA apologized for interrupting them and introduced herself. She and Luke-san had recently become a couple. The girl turned to them. She was pleased to finally meet them. Amelia asked what her intentions were. The princess knows what people talk, but she thinks Mr. Luke is a fine man. He saved her life. And it was worth a little talk with him that she fell in love. She loves Prince Luke with all her heart. The queen realized that there was nothing to object to such an insistence. The girl thanked her. The woman asked Luke what about Lulu. After all, they loved each other and were going to get married. Luke had heard that she was engaged to someone else. The woman grabbed her husband's beard and stated that they needed to keep a good relationship. Guy said that he and MANHWA would come to visit them in the summer to stay with them. then decides something about Lulu too. Amelia realized that he would not return home and thus betray his own mother. Luke replied that, if anything, it was his father who had betrayed him. Mother asked if he really liked it there. The prince replied that he did very much. He can be a student and do his studies. There is no boredom. The woman understood him. The protagonist asked his mother to take care of his father, and his father not to bother King Zeno anymore. And if he does again, he will fly in on a dragon and teach him politeness in person. The king said not to threaten him. All the girls thought Hattie was cute. As it turned out, MANHWA recognized Luke's data that she found through the tablet. She apologized for her curiosity. The guy replied that it was no big deal. He asked if she was still okay with it if she now knew his weight. The girl replied that maybe she just didn't have anything to compare it to, but she didn't see a problem. Luke asked what she thought of Hattie. The princess gave him the second sweetest rating after Spinel. He wondered how the ranking was compiled. The queen asked to be allowed to hold Luke's familiar. She noticed that his fur was very soft. Hattie is a cutie after all. MANHWA wanted to pet him too. The king noticed that he was already getting a little stronger. Luke saw that Hattie already had a rank 12. Zeno surmised that hunting with the dragon had also affected his skill level. Amelia remembered that Luke-san had a fairy. The boy realized that she was talking about Nabi, who had come to the call at that moment. The girl asked to be allowed to choose a dress for the fairy. Nabi agreed and told her to pick her something cute. Luke asked why she didn't speak out loud. As it turned out, the reason was that she was small and could not be heard. The prince thought she was ready to tear up anyone who touched her. Nabi replied that not at all, especially since such a thing could not happen to her. He asked if he could touch her. The fairy replied that he could only touch her if she let him. Luke felt warm, as if he were touching a feather, and also the scent of vanilla. Amelia asked him if she could have it too. He asked if Nabi minded. To Amelia's darling, she allowed it. The prince asked not to call her that. The fairy apologized. It was just that she had succumbed to her emotions. He inquired why she needed a different outfit. This is how Amelia imagines pixie fairies to be, and it is not at all difficult for her to change her appearance. If she and Amelia become friends, they'll see each other more often, too. Maybe that way she'll start to trust him little by little. The princess noticed that she smelled sweet. The guy said that the vanilla scent had a relaxing effect. Amelia was surprised that he knew so much. Nabi was proud of her master, she chose him herself. The beast fell asleep. The king decided that they had better go to bed too, so as not to wake him up. His wife thought so too. Amelia turned to them. She wanted to keep silent, but it was disrespectful of her to wear that necklace in the presence of His Majesty. The girl begged their forgiveness. She cannot appear in public without it, although she used to wear the necklace only in class. Mrs. Carmia suggested that she had never shown her face to Luke either. She asked how Amelia was going to get married. Luke stated that the girl would reveal herself to him when she wanted to. The woman asked if he wasn't interested in what she looked like. Luke was interested. However, he wasn't stupid enough to force her to do anything. Nabi said that if someone hurt her, she would show them. Amelia interrupted her and thanked her. Iris asked what Luke was doing. The guy wanted to make hair shampoo. The girl was glad that then they could forget about the fragrant oil they were using now, and thought it was a great idea. The shampoo and conditioner in bottles were ready. The maid questioned how to use them. Luke explained that it was simple. First, the shampoo removes the dirt. Then the conditioner revitalizes and nourishes the hair. And Nabi made a lotion and a face cream. Pretty girls can't do without them. She wanted to try them too. The girl looked at the bottle and didn't understand anything. She suggested that we take a bath together. Luke was surprised. He would explain to her how to use the cosmetics and let her prepare the bath. Iris listened to him. She suggested that they practice first. The prince didn't mind. The girl was going to do his abs. They started the workout. Luke asked not to complain if he pounced on her. Iris was ready. Nabi saw that it looked like she was indeed ready, and considers him a contender for consort. Apparently, his familiars were the deciding factor. Still, the most important thing is that the one he chooses makes him happy. Luke realized he had to choose one with whom he was happy. That would be nice. Luke asked if she was afraid that MANHWA would hate her if they started dating. Iris didn't think so. She was very afraid. It was still 4 more times to 30. It was hard for him, but he was bracing himself. At last the training session was over. The girl praised him and reminded him that they would continue tomorrow. Luke thanked her for her help. Iris said to drink some water and they would go to the bathroom. The protagonist suggested soaking in hot water first. The girl liked the idea. She asked if he wanted to take concubines. Luke didn't want to. He had barely come to terms with his father and King Zeno. But it is a very delicate balance. She realized that family feuds were not uncommon, and he didn't want to be the cause of them. Iris asked if it was true that relationships don't have to be spoiled. The prince replied that in general, yes. For example, Princess MANHWA is friends with Erika. There is nothing to break them up. And she and Erika are friends too, so she's confident in herself. Luke thought she was an optimist. The girl thought she had the perfect conditions. In 3 years, he can't fail to like her. The boy laughed with a laugh. He had already given his word to King Zeno, so he wouldn't promise an engagement. But after the wedding, she could be a second wife. Iris was overjoyed. So with Amelia, he would get 3 wives. She couldn't wait any longer. She wanted to marry him as soon as possible. Luke said it was time to wash his hair. To show her how to use the shampoo properly, he would wash her hair himself. This surprised the girl. She was against it. If anyone found out that she had a prince helping her wash her hair, she would be burned to death. Luke replied that learning is always better with practice, and she agreed. He dripped some on his palm and began rubbing the shampoo on. Luke applied it to Iris's head. She realized it felt very nice. The prince explained to massage the scalp with his fingertips. He rinsed it off. Now we must apply a nourishing balm. Don't overdo it. You have to wait a little longer. In the meantime, we can wash ourselves. When the conditioner is absorbed into the hair, it can be easily washed out. 1 rinse is enough. Iris noticed that her hair felt soft. All that's left is to wash. She needs to lather up the washcloth and massage her face. Her skin felt clean but not tight with dryness. Luke went, and she must not touch the oil or dry her hair. The girl was surprised. Iris thought that's the way to ruin your hair. The boy patted the couch for her to sit next to him. He used a spell and the maid felt it. She asked what kind of magic it was. Luke replied that she could do it too if she practiced the heating spell. The girl's hair was glistening like that, and she could run her fingers through it. Iris decided to step back for a moment. The prince didn't understand where she was going if it was already 8 o'clock. Only he was going to ask for a massage. The girl returned. MANHWA and Erika came with her. Luke was surprised by their arrival. They too wanted to try the shampoo and everything else. All girls want to be beautiful, no matter what world they were born into. He saw a cute picture of Nabi sleeping with Hattie and Spinel. The girls noticed that their hair had indeed become soft and loose. Luke was pleased that they were satisfied. He suggested they try the moisturizing lotion, face cream and body cream. They were eager. The lotion gives the necessary moisturization. At the same time, it does not increase the oiliness of the skin, establishing a perfect balance. And it gives a revitalizing effect. MANHWA could still understand the cream, but why a lotion on top of that? Luke explained that the light texture absorbs better. And if you put a cream on top of the lotion, they improve each other's effect. The girls marveled at the condition of their skin. The guy showed another cream intended for the body. Iris thought this morning was the best morning of her life after the products used. She went to the gentleman's room to wake him up. There was a strange girl lying in bed with him. Iris was shocked at what she saw. Luke didn't realize what was going on. The maid asked who the girl next to him was. MANHWA was just as indignant. He has her. The boy did not realize what was happening. He saw the girl beside him and admitted that he himself did not know. Nabi woke up. Luke asked if she knew her. The girl woke up. She called him master and said hello. The boy realized it was Diana. As it turned out, he didn't know that there was a magical connection between them and that dragons could turn into humans. Luke asked Iris to lend her some of her clothes. The prince asked how she got here. Diana pointed to the broken window. According to the girl, it wasn't her fault. It was just that all the rooms were already dark. She couldn't just wander around naked. Barely found the master's room, so she climbed in. Luke couldn't hear a thing. Nabi called out to him, but he was fast asleep. Iris brought her clothes in. The girl was stretching out her underwear and didn't know what it was. The maid asked her not to do that. The boy said hello to Hattie and apologized for the noise. If they were all ready, they would go for a walk together. The king knocked on their door. He apologized for the early visit. Luke inquired what brought him at such an early hour. Zeno apologized to MANHWA in advance, and let Luke understand him correctly. He knelt down on his knees. According to the king, there are people whose lives need to be saved. They are weak enough to be on the verge of death, and he is asking him to save these people. Everyone was surprised that His Majesty knelt down. Nabi asked not to worry. His magical energy increased with the acquisition of familiars, and the passive skills of accelerated and enhanced healing were added. He would be able to heal as many people as he wanted. They only have one lecture today, so Luke agrees. The king was pleased. However, the guy has conditions. The ruler inquired about them. Luke's name is to be kept secret. If the patients are from a noble family, let them make a donation for the treatment, and they will give the money to build hospitals. The king was surprised there was no personal gain for the prince. He has a chance to become famous. Fame is of no use to Luke at all. They need to vacate a large house with several rooms, and gather all the sick in that house. Just separate them into groups. To the king's question, the boy replied that the number of people could be any number of people at all. Luke could train others in healing magic. The prince asked if the king could gather 5 mages serving in the temple who were proficient in control magic at the 5th level and antidote magic at the highest level. Zeno didn't think that such a thing could be trained. Was it worth throwing away such knowledge? Luke didn't want to profit from saving lives, so he would teach this magic to the nuns. Then all donations from the healed people would go to hospitals and orphanages. The governor promised to thank him generously. The girls admired Luke. In the royal guard's house, the lad analyzed that the patient had tuberculosis. The condition was critical. Luke assumed they were too late. He used cleansing and asked to remove the sick man's clothes. The guy noticed the deep sores and told Iris to give him a scalpel. The king resented why the healer was not brought in sooner. The girl was very sorry. Luke interrupted them with the words that it was not easy for both of them, but they should attend to the sick man now. The ruler apologized. He had succumbed to his emotions. With this man, they had studied together at the Knight Academy, and after graduation, he joined the royal guard. This scar on his back he got while covering him during an assassination attempt. Luke realized that the sick man was his friend. He knew that if not treated immediately, a poisoned blade would leave a scar like a burn. In response to Iris's question, the guy replied that he used a healing nutrient compound. It provides nutrients for a whole day. The king recognizes Edward's secret potion. The sick man asked why Your Majesty was here. Zeno inquired how he was feeling. He asked the king to leave as one could get infected. The ruler said that was not the case. After all, he had brought a strong magician healer today. The patient remarked that he had not changed himself. I wish he had such optimism. The man asked if he was going to get better. His question was answered that tuberculosis can still be beaten, but success depends on his will to live. Luke has already had treatment with magic. He should be better. Now we need to check on the family. The king thanked him. In the king's castle, the king noticed that there had been as many as 4 healing sessions in the morning and was grateful for that. Tomorrow, 7 nuns and pontiffs with magical abilities would arrive at his castle. When asked, the lad replied that he could teach them healing magic. Zeno said that Luke had spent a lot of both physical and mental energy today, so now it was necessary to rest and have a good meal. The doors opened in front of him. The king asked to eat to his heart's content. The ruler noticed that Luke had already got used to Diana's charming appearance. By the way, she had once been the dragon guardian of the city of Geralt. The prince had not expected such a thing. As it turned out, it was a very famous legend. 600 years ago, there was a village called Geralt in the mountains. One day, a black dragon saved the inhabitants from evil magical creatures. In return, they offered 3 barrels of excellent wine. The dragon descended to the ground and before everyone's eyes turned into a lovely girl. The villagers received her with honors. They merrily celebrated the victory, praising the goodness and strength of the dragon. And then, from the scales left after the transformation, the Garelians began to forge incredibly strong armor and weapons. Thanks to this, the village soon became a city. Nabi realized that it seemed that King Zeno wouldn't mind dragon scales himself. Neither would Luke. Dragons make nests, don't they? Turns out they do. He wanted to find Diana's nest. The king understood him. Dwarves and elves have a very long lifespan. The children of those Garelians are probably still alive. He thought they'd be very happy to see Diana. If the lad found scales, they could process them. The lad, the maid, and the queens were traveling in a wagon. Carmia suggested we stop by the house of an acquaintance of hers. She was a relative and friend of hers. Luke agreed. Firstly, it's to visit family. But the more important reason was political. The boy asked what that meant. Milana explained that political forces are always competing with each other. And while men are usually restrained, their wives, chatting over a cup of tea, may let something slip. Luke was surprised by the existence of a secret society of wives. Maiafa's mother noticed that it was written all over his face. She asked him not to worry. They are just drinking tea and having fun. Just complaining to each other about life and sharing news. It's creepy. Aristocrats often have intrigues. It is very important that the wife is able to sense something wrong and warn her spouse in time. The woman added that such activities were beyond Mief's reach. The prince remembered that Miefa could immediately see a lie. Yes, and upon learning that she was invited, everyone immediately refused to come. Quickly realizing that it was because of her, Miefa herself stopped coming to tea. The boy concluded that then they would not invite any of them to their house. And Nabi could provide him with information as well. But since his status gives such an opportunity, he wants to keep Miefa away from such an environment. Queen Carmia was surprised. According to her, when Zeno had a dead grip on him, she thought it was a waste of time. Now she realizes, he sees through people like Miefa. Let him do as he sees fit, they will support him in everything. Luke thanked them. Carmia noticed that there was clearly no oil on Iris's hair. She wondered why they looked so shiny and smooth. Milana took notice, too. The girl didn't know what to say to them. At the academy, the queens admired his means. They thanked Iris for showing them. The women were applying body products. Miefa and Erica walked in on them. Luke asked how the princess's surname was doing. The girl replied that everything was fine. However, she was more interested in something else. She asked what her mother was doing here. Milana explained that they washed their hair and tried skin products. That's very convenient. Miefa wondered who had shown them all this. The woman confessed that Iris had. The queen didn't understand how she was going to hide these wonders and use them in secret. There are no words to express how saddened she was by this. The girl replied that she hadn't even had time to tell Amelia and Natalie yet. It's just that the queens had the cheek to get to the cosmetics before anyone else. Amelia realized that the products were rare, but could he give her a taste of them too? The boy was surprised that she spoke up herself. As it turned out, even Nabi wanted to ask him for the cream. She thought Amelia had just lost her head and forgotten her fears. Luke realized that this was a good sign. Nabi had noticed how much power cosmetics have over girls. Of course, Luke would give the products to her and Natalie as well. The girls were very grateful. Diane asked for a gift for her as well. Milana realized it was a dragon in human form. Diana thought that it was Maiafa's mum in front of her. She looked like two peas in a pod. The queens introduced themselves. Luke wasn't going to do much makeup, but there are so many willing. He wondered if there might be a need to capitalize. He thought about who he would entrust it to. Miefa realized that he was thinking about the trade. Nabi suggested entrusting it to the Iris family. The prince knew that their estate had increased a couple of years ago. There was enough space. But where to get the raw materials? They could grow the crops themselves. In the long run, it would help keep the price of goods low. Luke asked what kind of person Iris's father, Count Michael, was. The girl didn't understand why he was asking. The prince was wondering if her family should be entrusted with the production of shampoo and other cosmetics. This news surprised Iris. Erica resented why only Iris. The guy asked if her family had a lot of land. The girl replied that no, since her father is in the royal guard, they don't have an estate of their own. Luke replied that since it takes a lot of plant material to make cosmetics, he wants to entrust it to those who have fertile land. According to Miefa, Iris has a wonderful father. He was given the title of count because he founded a new settlement on undeveloped land. Iris was very happy that Luke had decided to entrust them with an important task. At the end of the week, he would go to treat Duchess Sasha. He asked if he could meet her father. The maid would warn him about it. The prince thought it would be best to divide the responsibility. Perhaps Duke Gale could take care of some of the work. Count Michael would be in charge of production and Duke Gale would be in charge of supplying the goods. That way, they can create channels to sell the goods. Iris thought it was a good idea. Duke Gale would even be able to supply their cosmetics to the royal palace. The queens admired Luke. Nabi saw that the host was appreciated. Iris is also madly in love with him. The magical aura is bright pink. And Yefa sees the color of the aura too and seems to be jealous. Carmia inquired about what other skin products Luke could make. The boy suggested sunscreen. They immediately understood its purpose. The prince asked if they protect their skin from the sun. Queen Milana replied that of course they do. With umbrellas, for example. But if you stay outdoors for a long time, it doesn't save you. Healing magic helps, but still. Milana has fair skin, so she gets sunburned quickly. The sun also makes her skin age quickly. The queens have asked for such a cream. The king's messenger knocked on the door. As it turned out, His Majesty had ordered him to bring both his consorts back to the palace. The women were not very happy. His Majesty also told him to give Luke this. The prince realized that it was for Hattie. He asked him to convey his thanks. The queens were said goodbye. Luke had already done 37 push-ups. He tried to forget about the girls in the bathroom and pull himself together. But he could hear them laughing in there. The guy noticed that his stomach had shrunk, judging by his belt. Iris congratulated him on that. He was approached. Amelia thanked for the wonderful remedies. Luke realized that if she liked them, he had not tried in vain. She was the first to speak to him, a good sign. He would apply more healing magic little by little. Little Spinel had such soft fur now. He was a delight to the girls. Luke decided to go take a bath. Diane and Nabi gathered around him. The boy said that Diana was not allowed with him. The girl thought he was kicking her out. But he had helped her wash before. Luke replied that she was a dragon then. Now things are different. Diana decided then to let Nabi go too. She looked like a girl too. The fairy thought it was a vulgar innuendo. She doesn't agree. It's better this way. Both she and Diana will go to the bathroom with the master. Diana supported her idea. They were silent when he took his concubines. Now it was his turn to give in, and let him not complain. Diana enjoyed washing her hair. Luke saw that everyone seemed to be humble. Hattie liked it too. Now they too would wash the master. Diana was grateful to the goddess that she could become human. The protagonist dried Hattie and fed him. Myefa admired him. Spinel was hungry too. The girls watched them with amusement. Myefa realized that Spinel was getting quite lazy. They would go to bed. Then Iris decided to take a bath too. They said goodbye and went their separate ways. And Luke had one more thing left to do. Nabi reported that the wax crayons were ready. But shouldn't more colors be made? The prince thought that 6 would be enough to start with. So everything he had asked for yesterday was done. The fairy asked if he was satisfied with the result. Luke replied that it was fine. He thanked her and let him go to bed. She was pleased and said goodnight. The guy pulled out a booklet about viruses and germs. By learning about the existence of germs, local doctors would be able to study them. Iris wondered what he was doing. Luke was making a booklet for healers on how to heal diseases. The girl was annoyed. He asked what was wrong, then let him share such valuable knowledge with her as well. The prince replied that and was going to show the booklet to her first. To his question, she replied that it was clearer with colored pictures. Iris noticed that these colored sticks were so bright. Luke hoped the pictures would be enough. He decided to explain to her. The girl was all ears. He pointed out to her the black grits that fly out when she coughs. She surmised that they were the ones causing the disease. The protagonist drew them for clarity. But you can't actually see them with your eyes. It takes special tools and skills. Luke decides to show her one image, but you can't tell anyone about it. She realized that these were the sources of the diseases. It was like an abstract painting, like being covered with thorns. These invisible particles cause colds, and these are the causative agents of tuberculosis. Iris noticed that they were already without thorns. Luke replied that they come in different shapes and colors. The girl thought it was better to show it to everyone, but the prince didn't think so. The doctors should do their own work. He didn't have to explain everything to them. Iris wondered how he had learned it himself, even in such detail. She surmised that from his wise mentor. Luke replied that he had figured out much of it himself. In another world, of course. Such things even wise men might not know. Pictures are a great power. And he also has Nabi, also a skill of sorts. Although Luke would soon share his knowledge with several healers, he offered to keep this conversation a secret. Iris thanked him for his trust. She was very flattered. Guy advised her that while applying healing magic, she should try to visualize that she was expelling the source of the illness from her body. The girl seemed to understand what he meant. The protagonist's familiars fell asleep. They said goodnight to each other. Thoughts of tomorrow kept Luke awake. People's lives depend on this meeting. All sorts of important people would be there. How exciting! The boy decided to make a cure. There was a knock at his door. Luke didn't think much of the noise. A disgruntled Iris came into the room. She realized that he was preparing the medicine and had not called her. He is grinding turmeric. It is considered good for the stomach and liver. The rest of the ingredients are medicinal too. Red pepper, garlic, coriander, cumin. She had studied witchcraft, so she understood everything at a glance. Luke wasn't going to hide anything. If Iris was helpful, he would share the recipe. The girl was surprised. The guy wanted to grind everything into a powder. He'd probably have to use some kind of spell. Iris surmised that either grinding or crushing would be necessary. She had wanted to master them during her studies, but had never been able to. The girl wondered why so much. Was it for tomorrow's meeting with the healers? It turned out not to be for her. A thought came to Luke. He remembered that he had transmutation skills. The boy transformed the ingredients into powder. They scattered the result into jars. Iris asked if he would tell her the recipe. The prince said that they made the powder today and would do the rest tomorrow. He had once made it up for Lala. The girl thought that Mrs. Lala was ill, but that was not the case. This remedy had helped Luke out more than once, so he would be sure to find out for her later, he had promised, after all. Diana woke up in her master's bed naked again. She didn't like the clothes. Nabi wished him good morning. The workshop made a saddle for Diana. The girl replied that she couldn't stand the saddle either. Nabi asked not to be selfish. What if the master falls during the flight? Diana said she would not allow such a thing to happen. The prince was grateful to her. The king thanked Luke for coming. The boy said hello to him. The king himself came out to greet him. Nabi surmised that he was worried about his friend's health. Besides, finding a cure for tuberculosis was an issue of national importance. The king felt it necessary to be present. Luke asked if she thought the king was afraid of how he might use the knowledge against him. Zeno didn't trust him. Nabi thought it highly likely. The guy was, after all, still recently known as the Pig Prince in several kingdoms. King Zeno's misgivings are quite likely. The ruler said that they had brought 15 tuberculosis patients here. Luke was confident that he could handle that many. The healers were waiting for them in the main hall. 7 pontiffs and sisters of mercy from various temples had arrived. And from him 3 more court mendicants. The king asked if he could train them too. The protagonist replied that he could. He's not very happy about the overseers, but King Zeno doesn't want only churchmen to have the knowledge, and he may be right. Luke is noticed by those present. He was greeted by the Pontiff Mars, who was informed that the prince had kindly agreed to teach them how to cure people of tuberculosis. He was kept awake all night with excitement. How many lives they would be able to save? The boy replied that they could then teach others themselves. The pontiff remarked that this was true. The protagonist announced that they would learn the theoretical basics before demonstrating it in practice. He would explain in detail how tuberculosis spreads. Yesterday, he made this booklet with pictures. One of those present resented it. According to Luke, he only wanted to make it clear to everyone. This subdued the guy. Nabi revealed that he was actually a nice guy. But he seemed to have feelings for Miefa. Luke realized that this was a healer at court. So he could see Miefa's breasts. Nabi said that this remark was discouraging. The king's spouses and daughters are served by female healers. By the way, one of them is also here today. The king took umbrage with the words that Lengren's outbursts were inappropriate now. The boy apologized. Luke decided to start. After finishing, he asked if they had any questions. The sister raised her hand. She found it hard to believe that there were disease-causing particles invisible to the eye. How would he prove their existence if they were invisible? Luke knew that was to be expected. He was interested in the actions of one girl. Nabi noticed the magic of proximity. The power must be comparable to a microscope. The girls seemed to have found confirmation of his story. Luke asked if they had thought about where the green spots on the bread came from. The sister understood where the mold comes from. The boy replied that this was correct. And knights often complain that their feet are itchy. This affected the king. He realized that Luke meant water bugs. Nabi explained that in Edo-era Japan, they also called the fungus water bugs or field bugs. Back then, people thought that itching was not caused by germs but by insects living in water or soil. The ruler confessed that his feet were itchy himself. Could the lad please take off his shoes? Luke saw that his toenails were not yet affected, but it was probably fungus. He didn't understand why diagnostic magic wasn't working. As it turned out, his skill was too weak. Therefore, not very serious illnesses are not detected by magic. The king thought that it wouldn't be possible to cure them either. The boy replied that it could be cured, just like tuberculosis. Zeno rejoiced. But first Luke took a sample of the damaged skin. He wanted to use water magic to make a lens. Nabi thought the idea was a good one, but unlikely to succeed. The prince wanted to make sure that if he put a few together, they would be able to see the infectious agent, after all. Nabi replied that microscopes have special lenses. You can't just get them. Luke thought it was better to give up. However, the fairy replied that he didn't have to. She thought they could still show everyone the microbes, and asked him to trust her. With a steaming spell, he suspended a piece of skin in the air and directed a beam of light at it from below. Next, he created 4 lenses with water magic, applied approximation to them, and stacked them on top of each other. This surprised everyone. The girl watching the process had the same result. Luke was grateful to Nabi. He offered to take a look. These fibers are water bugs. Now we need to separate them from the skin sample. Luke suggested that Iris try it first. She should visualize eliminating harmful germs and channel healing magic. The girl followed the advice. The level increased. The disease-causing microbes were removed. Iris was delighted with the results. She asked if tuberculosis could be cured in the same way. As it turned out, yes, and the results would be obvious, even with average skills. Luke informed the king that if he wore the same shoes again, he would get the fungus again. At the healing workshop, Luke noticed that his sister was excellent at magic. Is it some special kind? The girl replied that it was. The pontiff marveled at the prince's excellent sorcery. The result of the cure is marvelous. And he's seen a lot of things in his life. They've lost so many lives. It works on the flu. Luke thought it might work for other illnesses. But each case would require a different presentation. It is not always enough to remove the cause. If there are inflammatory processes, they must also be eliminated, otherwise the fever will not go down. In tuberculosis, the inflammation is in the lungs, and during the treatment one must imagine it disappearing. However, high-level healers using his method can cure even neglected tuberculosis at once. Luke told Nabi that they have skills far beyond his. That's right. The fairy asked if he wanted to raise the level of magic rather. Although he had a better understanding of the causes of diseases than them, it became obvious how big the difference between mid-level and top-level mages was. Guy informed the pontiff that he had to go. There was something he needed to check. He could call on him if he needed to. Luke asked to show the booklet to the healers at the church. The man thanked him. It would be very useful to them. The prince told King Zeno that he was leaving for the duke's castle. The ruler asked him to wait. He wants Luke to speak at the closing of the conscription ceremony. It's time, after all, to introduce him to the people as Miefa's fiancé. The king asked what he thought. Miefa and Erica meet Luke. Just then, father asked Miefa about the engagement announcement. He spoke to Luke as well. Natalie greeted them and had already prepared lunch. The girl wondered if it would be enough to say that they were getting married. She wanted to say that she couldn't think of anyone else but him. The princess apologized if she sounded pompous. Luke realized that he would have to talk about feelings then too. Miefa thought he was uncomfortable talking about the wedding because of her shortcomings. But that wasn't the point. He just wanted to make a marriage for love. She concluded that he had no feelings for her. More precisely, he apparently still has feelings for Lilithia, to whom he was also once engaged. He also has feelings for Iris. Is that the reason? He has fallen in love with Iris, and she reciprocates. The princess asks if she is right. Iris did not deny it. Luke asked for advice from Nabi, who didn't know what to do either. The boy thought it would be better to eliminate that evil god now, and then get married. Nabi suggested that then he would have time to sort out his feelings and make the right choice. The prince replied that Iris would make the perfect wife for him. She is a good cook and a wonderful hostess. And interested in healing magic, they would have a lot to talk about. But MANHWA was not without her virtues. That surprised the girl. What he likes best is that she always tells the truth. Not that she sees a lie, but that she does not lie herself. He asked, for example, if MANHWA loved him. The princess replied that she certainly did. Luke noticed that she looked so happy now. It was clear at once that she was speaking from the heart. The girl was surprised that he really thought so. She had never dreamed that she would have a man in her life who considered her peculiarity a virtue. We need to explain the difference between his and Luke's attitudes towards marriage. In Luke's world, a relationship equates to a wedding. His first girlfriend was a childhood friend. They broke up because they didn't share the same interests. Then he dated a colleague from a firm he had just joined, but she turned out to be very winded. And with the third, they were together for only 6 months, then he died. He might not have survived the fight with that evil god. Luke wondered if he had the right to make any promises to MANHWA. According to Nabi, the goddess believes that if he dies, the people in this world are doomed. Luke wondered if he had such a burden of responsibility. The boy thought that MANHWA asked Iris every morning if they had anything. The princess thought Iris had blabbed. He replied that she had said nothing. He does not reproach her in any way. Luke is not very confident, and is even jealous of the way MANHWA shows love and jealousy. Her mother often told her if you love someone too much, you will be hated. Luke observes that it is easy to overdo it in this case. He agrees to announce his engagement to MANHWA. The girl was overjoyed. Guy assumed that by questioning Iris, she actually wanted to know if he loved her. MANHWA asked him to tell her that every day. To avoid being called the bride of a stupid pig prince, Luke will study hard and lose weight. Those words pleased her even more. He turned his attention to Emilia. The prince also wanted to announce their engagement as well. She might not care, but rumors about him are spreading and soon they will be pressed by various political forces. And Duke Guile will rush the official announcement. The political pressure surprised the girl. The king's consorts had given Luke some advice the other day. Being surrounded by aristocrats with different agendas, one should keep an eye on their behind-the-scenes activities and always be one step ahead. His Hattie and Diana with the Spinel of MANHWA represent the most powerful group of familiars in this country. If they announce their engagements, his political weight will increase even more. And the king won't mind gaining the duke's support in this way. Even if after 3 years she still doesn't begin to trust him, they can still get married. The boy thought that a friendly union would suit them as well, although the marriage would be a sham. Emilia knew her father would start asking about the children. What would they answer? According to the prince, they would answer that children are a gift from the gods. After all, she doesn't have to correct the mistakes of her father, who never married his concubine, by the way. The girl understood him. She, too, felt that she needed to move on. Emilia wants to one day show her true face and explain why she began to avoid male society. So she asked him to accept her as his bride. It was amazing. Nabi realized that she wanted to play along with him. Apparently, Emilia feels that you can't hide behind someone else's appearance forever and wants to repay his kindness. Luke said that Iris will have to wait. And they haven't met her parents yet. Although they have a mutual liking, they can't announce their engagement yet. Besides, MANHWA has to give permission. The princess had nothing against Iris. She did not like the idea of everyone having a concubine. Count Michael, having been inbred with Duke Guile, would hardly be able to withstand external pressure. Emilia and Iris will find themselves caught up in yet another political game. It's better than becoming a concubine to a complete stranger. Luke remarked that this was also true. His position would now change too. As the Duke's future son-in-law, Nabi thought, he would have more influence. Guy decided to call King Zeno to announce his agreement to announce the engagement at the ceremony. At that moment the king opened the doors. He thanked Luke. The ministers had been talking his ear off. The boy had saved him. MANHWA thought the ministers were against their wedding. It turned out to be the opposite. It seems King Julius has told them about Luke. Now the ministers want the Ferner cub and the ancient dragon to live in their country. This is what seems important to them. MANHWA asked to forgive her father. Luke replied that he would think the same if he were. So they announced their engagement. The prince asked for MANHWA's hand in marriage and promised to take care of her. The king entrusted his daughter to his care. The girl was glad to hear these words. At the closing of the conscription ceremony, the director remarked that this year's ceremony had been very successful. Both wyverns and dragons showed up for the invocation. For the first time, one man has made contracts with an ancient dragon and a legendary beast. The princess summoned a magical creature, the likes of which had become familiars only 3 times. They will conclude the ceremony by introducing the summoned creatures above rank B. But first, his wyvern Pippi. Nabi turned to the master. She wanted threads of arachne web. Could he strike up a conversation with her master? It was the owner of a rank B familiar. Then the arachne asked if her master would make a contract with her. The boy inquired about the teacher's opinion. Arachne is half spider and half beautiful girl. They have high intelligence and can speak, so they used to be considered a race. However, they are still magical creatures. Their threads can be used to make excellent fabrics. It happens that contracts are made with them just for material gain, though that is a sign of greed. The latter surprised the lad. Arachnids come only as females. They make excellent companions for their masters. It is said they can sometimes resist spider instincts. But after giving birth to a calf, the arachne feeds it with its own flesh, and the host takes the loss hard. The student thought that having a companion was not bad, but he was not ready for a relationship with an arachne. The teacher said he could limit himself to friendship. Luke asked why she needed a web. Nabi replied that it could be used to make clothes. The boy stopped them. The student asked in surprise what he wanted. The prince asked if he could give some arachne web. If need be, Luke could pay, just let him name the price. The boy apologized, but he had already received another offer. He would sell the cobwebs to a dress shop. Arachne grabbed it. She thought it would be more profitable to sell the web to the prince than to the shop. The student replied that he had promised, after all. Nabi noticed that this arachne was grasping. Realizes that it would be better to befriend the prince than to set up a trade. The boy was willing to accept his offer. Luke thanked him. Only he needs quite a bit, so he can sell the rest. The student thanked him for his concern. Arachne asked which threads the gentleman wished to obtain. The king was about to begin his speech. He said that this year they had obtained some very rare familiars outside the academy as well. There is now an ogre in the king's castle and a fire dragon in the temple. Many people probably already know, but they still have an announcement. He called out to Luke, MANHWA, and Amelia. Luke, the third prince of the kingdom of Valg, and his daughter, the second princess MANHWA, and the eldest daughter of Duke Forrest announced their engagement. This is how Luke became the future son-in-law to the king of the vassal state of Forel in a conscription ceremony. News of this spread across the country and beyond. The king asked if everything was ready for the test flight. The princess realized that he wanted to fly Diana again. Luke said that it would be no problem for Diana. She said she has stiff scales on her back, so she can't even feel the saddle or the saddlers. King Zeno wondered when Luke had time to make such a beautiful saddle. After all, it had only been 2 days since the ceremony. The boy laughed. He couldn't tell what Nabi had made in the magic workshop. According to MANHWA, these clothes have been lying around too long and now smell strange. Luke asked if Nabi could make a ring out of mithril. The fairy replied that she could do it. She sent him the result. The boy was pleased. He would adjust the size himself. Luke decided to handle the shape and size. He used metal transformation and entered the base. The prince called out to MANHWA and Amelia. The boy put on an engagement ring, even if it was just that for now. It has purification and poison protection spells on it. The poison defense works all the time, using up magic. But purification will only work from the flow of magical energy, which is very convenient. The king stopped them and said that he needed the poison defense more. He suggested that MANHWA give the ring to her father. Luke resented it. It was an engagement gift. The ruler replied that he too had to protect himself from poisoning. The bracelet has a protection spell too, but it's so heavy. It weighs a kilo. Nabi said that items here can only be assigned weak spells. That is, only entry-level spells. And more powerful artifacts were never even mined from the dungeons here. This angered Luke. So he'd made a mistake. He used too much magic. The prince decided to give the king a chain and pendant. This news pleased the ruler. He surmised that it was all Luke got from King Julius. The boy replied that they were his. So he got them from his mentor? Zeno knew that a healer needed such things. It was a relief for Luke, also made an impression. He asked MANHWA to simply drop blood on him. The maid helped her. Now Amelia. The presence of another ring angered the king. He wanted one too. The girl said she could give him the ring as a gift from the duchy. Luke reminded her that it was an engagement ring. He asked Natalie to help her place the blood seal. Cleansing is a useful spell, and it doesn't take much effort. By visualizing the desired effect, one must channel magical energy into the ring. MANHWA decided to give it a try. She used the spell. The girl thanked Luke, for the strange odor was gone. It was time for them to depart. The girls greeted Diana. Iris promised to present her with a generous portion of meat as a thank you after their flight. The dragoness glowed with joy. Then she must cook a tastier one, and only roast it well. The girl replied that she would certainly. Luke knew it was not necessary to bribe Diana. He fastened the seat belts. They set off on their journey. Diana noticed people fighting with goblins down there. The guy couldn't see from here. He asked to go down a bit. The map of the neighborhood showed 3 wagons. They are guarded by 12 men and the goblins are somewhere around 20. A few have already been killed, probably. The prince knew they would make it, but it was better to wait and observe for now. He asked if the others agreed. MANHWA had the same opinion. In case of anything, they would help. That was why she loved Prince Luke for his kindness and helpfulness. The boy was embarrassed. While waiting, he decided to give the others the rings too. They have the same spells on them as the engagement rings. The girls didn't expect this. The prince would like them to serve all of them for at least 3 more years. The rings must be worn on the right hand. Everyone wondered how many he had. Nabi noticed that Iris took offense. The boy replied that he and she were practicing both spells, she would soon master them on her own. He thought she felt left out. Luke walked over to her and whispered that there was a special ring for her with a healer's power boost and spell enhancement. Erica asked if she could not make the seal with blood, in case she needed to give it to someone. As it turned out, she wouldn't be able to use it then. Such artifacts most often need to be sealed. According to Nabi, if an artifact can be used by anyone, even if it is very rare, its value decreases dramatically. Luke compared it to items in computer games. Here was a king who always put a seal to prevent any of his relatives from getting their hands on the artifact. That's quite royal. The battle seems to be over. The goblin attack has been repulsed, they can fly on. Nabi asked if they could veer off course a bit. Luke inquired if something had happened. As it turned out, to make cooking utensils, she wanted to pick up some clay on the riverbank. Luke did not understand why now. The fairy replied that then she could serve them the freshest bread for breakfast. Both thought of pizza for lunch. The prince remembered that he was losing weight. He suggested that Diana rest by the river and take a break. The boy told Iris that he would go to the river for clay, and she would look after Hattie. The girl agreed and did not understand why he needed the clay. Nabi realized that the bank was clay. With the help of magic, he should pick out the right section. The clay goes into his inventory. This way, anything can be mined. Nabi praises the clay and thanks Luke. Time to head back. Luke noticed the girls paddling in the water. They were happy to see him. The boy thought their amusement was cute. It was MANHWA who was the one playing in the water. Luke said they would buy swimming costumes in the summer and have proper trips to the river. The girl asked in what way proper. The boy replied that was swimming, fishing and shrimp fishing. The princess was very fond of fishing. She liked the idea. At the Duke's castle. Luke was surprised that they were already there. How strong Diana is after all. Diana inquired if he was pleased with the result. The boy admired her speed. She transformed into a girl. Luke asked Iris to bring her clothes. He said she couldn't be naked every time she transformed. Diana replied that it couldn't be helped, dragons don't wear clothes. Too bad humans don't. The prince inquired if Nabi had any useful spells. The fairy replied that there was no spell. But there are artifacts from the dungeons. With their help you can take off and put on clothes in an instant. The boy asked where to get one of these. Nabi replied that these artifacts are too rare, you can't buy them. However, she was sure that his magical abilities would allow him to make an item with similar properties. Luke asked if she really thought so. According to her, magic won't work without a clear image of the object. However, since he came from another world, he could also create unusual artifacts. The prince decided that he should try it later. They were expected here. The carriage was ready. The boy noticed that it was still only 6 o'clock. Luke asked if he could walk down the main street for a while, which he was allowed to do. On the walk, Luke was surprised at the large number of people. Amelia explained that there were many adventurers here, and also people buying groceries for dinner. Amelia was walking so close. He noticed that there were no benches in sight. She replied that there were none in the main street. The benches and food stalls are in the central square. In the past, Amelia always used at least a table as a shield. Apparently flying Diana and relaxing by the river has had a beneficial effect. She herself doesn't notice that she's chatting freely with her boyfriend. Iris was indignant, as the gentleman was not allowed to go to the shops, and asked to be patient. Luke grudgingly agreed. Nabi explained that she was taking care of his figure. But would he be able to curb his appetite? The boy realized that this was already bullying. By the way, Nabi is made 100% according to his preferences. Luke replied that this was not true. He asked if Amelia knew the neighborhood well. The boy wanted to buy something. The girl inquired what it was. He wants a flower shop. He also wants to buy eggs, milk, and some mithril. Amelia asked about the flower shop. The boy explained that flowers and herbs are needed for shampoo and other cosmetics. The princess took him by the sleeve and led the way. He asked if she was sure she was not embarrassed by anything. The girl realized that she herself was holding his sleeve. This surprised her. She panicked and apologized. Amelia didn't even notice until he said. Luke surmised that she just wanted to get shampooed. It was okay. The guy asked her to walk him to the right shop. The princess didn't expect to be able to talk to him without using the table as a barrier. She had just realized that. At the Duke's castle, Lala was pleased to see Amelia. She was glad to see brother Luke too and gave him a hug. The boy remembered that he had a familiar behind his back. He put it down on the floor. The girl inquired about the cutie. The prince introduced him. Lala bent down and apologized to him. Had he seemed cute to her? The butler greeted the guests and asked them to enter. He ushered them into the drawing room. Luke would like to check on Duchess Sasha first. Amelia agreed to go with him. Lala joined the boys as well. Anna resented why they didn't call her. She was going too. Luke was going to call her too, of course. The butler announced that Prince Luke was here to see the Duchess. He would like to inquire after her health. The woman allowed them to enter. Luke used a magic shield. The Duchess said hello to him. It wasn't worth skipping the academy for her. The guy didn't think so. After all, they would soon be family. By the way, he set up a barrier. Amelia noticed that Mother had weakened due to her illness. Luke opened the window and applied purification. Sasha felt much better than before. When asked about her cough, she replied that it had gone away, and there was less pain in her chest now. Then Luke would give her another treatment. Afterwards, the woman said she never ceased to be amazed at his cleansing magic. The fever was gone, and the body felt so light. Lala hugged Luke. She was grateful to him. The prince thought the girl was an angel. The Duchess asked if she could have dinner with them tonight. The boy thought no harm would come. Anna reminded them that they had promised to arrive by 9 o'clock. So here they were, all ready to meet them until 2 hours ago. Luke hadn't calculated the flight time on the dragon. He realized that he should have warned them when they were in town. Lala said they had seen them from a window on the black dragon. The prince replied that from the window the dragon must have looked small. But in reality it was huge. Then they will fly on it together. He needs to look around at the other people in the castle. He asked if Lala could watch the baby for now. He handed Hattie to her. The little girl was pleased. Apparently, the familiar liked her. It's a pity he has to sit at the prince's back all the time. The Duchess realized that he was the cub of a magical beast. Luke replied that he was still very young, so there was no need to worry. The woman was allowed to hold him. The boy asked to try not to tire the Duchess. Amelia thanked Luke for curing her mum. She decided to go with him, and she would meet her mother at dinner. The girl wanted to thank the maids who take care of her. The Duchess replied that they were very kind. One of the infected girls was still on her feet. Sasha asked to check on her. The maid decided to see them off. She was worried about the timid Amelia. Luke remembered to call Iris since they were going to see patients. Otherwise, she would take offense. At the servant's house, Luke asked how the maid was feeling. According to the girl, not bad. There had been no deterioration. He found she had a slight fever and decided to give her treatment now. The girls were grateful to him. The maid asked if she would really get well. Luke was not a doctor, however she would certainly recover. He thought, need 2 more days. The girl wondered. The boy asked what was. The maid was worried about what would happen when the Duchess recovered. Another maid said that Prince Luke shouldn't say that. It was better to keep quiet. No one answered the protagonist's question. Luke asked Nabi to explain what was the matter. As it turned out, the girls were only ransomed because the Duchess was ill. They are on a lifetime lease, effectively slaves. However, aristocrats in this world rarely use slave labor. These girls are on the lowest rung. In the Duke's castle, even the other hired laborers call them servants. Their life and death are at the complete mercy of their masters. The girls were expected to die of tuberculosis. So Duke Gale, to remove the sin from their souls, ordered at least to feed them properly. Apparently, one of the castle staff blabbed about it. Is slavery everywhere? As Luke realized, they were afraid they would soon be thrown out of here. The boy said there was no need to worry. They were taking care of Duchess Sasha. She would never give her maids any offense. And he'd put in a good word too. Amelia decided to talk to her father. The girls replied that they owed them their lives. The boy heard the frogs croaking. Apparently they live in the gutter under the building. They don't always croak so loudly. It will probably rain tonight or in the morning. It's a pity the maids can't leave the room. They're so tasty. That last one surprised Luke. The girl replied that it was unlikely that princes ate frogs. Actually, Luke had heard that frog meat tasted like chicken. He asked what she thought. The maid admitted that they are very tasty. If baked with salt, frogs even taste better than rabbit meat. The guy asked how to catch them. They don't have any attachments, so she catches with her hands. To the prince, this was curious. Nabi did not know how to make fishing rods. They have spools of spiderweb thread. And they also need bamboo stalks. They dry out in 3 days. The base better be sturdy. He's only seen frogs in his world. They're 3 times as big here. Luke cut up some bamboo sticks. It made a fishing rod. Iris wondered what he was going to do with the stick. The boy was going to catch frogs. The girl did not think that such an occupation was worthy of a prince. Luke reasoned that frog meat is dietary, after all. It's low in fat. Iris was surprised. With a scan, he saw that they were in the tube. The boy asked if it was a drain. As it turned out, these pipes carry water for washing and watering the gardens. Luke called everyone over here. He used stealth and a silent step. The prince picked up a heavy frog. Nabi advised cutting between the eyes. The fairy saw that catching frogs gave a big skill boost. They seemed to be having a struggle for survival in these tubes. The strongest individuals remained and ate many of their own kin. The level gain is the same as for killing an orc. This is a great opportunity. The prince suggested we split into groups. MANHWA will stay here. With Lala, he will go hunting. The girl realized that they would be catching frogs. He asked her not to be afraid, they were harmless. Lala wanted to give them a try. Luke decided to show her a couple of times. The girl was able to pick up a frog. She resisted. The guy said to pull as hard as she could. Luke asked if she could handle cutting up the prey herself. The girl replied that she would try. Lala was up to the task. Her skill level had increased. The prince praised her. MANHWA's rank has also increased. She's now rank 9. Luke congratulated the girl. 1 more level, and it would be possible to take a task at the temple. This pleased the princess. She then suggested that they should also go fishing for frogs. Erica and Amelia wanted to try it too. The hunt was going well. Luke asked MANHWA to come closer and tried to catch one. This confused the girl. As it turned out, she doesn't really like frogs. She doesn't like their color. The boy said she didn't need to touch them, just let her try to catch one. He would help. The princess was only willing to do it with him. One frog got hooked on the hook. MANHWA pulled as hard as she could. Now they have to hook it. They managed to pull it out. The frog flew straight towards Iris's face. The girl pushed it away. She asked why the master was doing that to her. Luke apologized and used purification. It was now clean. MANHWA apologized and said she didn't do it on purpose. Iris replied that she had nothing to apologize for. It was all the prince's fault. Luke replied that it was pure accident. MANHWA remarked that the Lord was not lying, but let him forgive them anyway. The maid realized that she had said the wrong thing. The girl knelt down on her knees. So she had slandered him in vain and asked him not to be angry. Luke was not angry. About an hour later, Lala told him that she was now level 10. Luke congratulated her. MANHWA was happy for her. The girl thanked them all and was very happy. Tomorrow he and MANHWA would go to the temple and take errands for them. Now it was time to end the hunt. The boy didn't know what to do with the frogs. According to Nabi, the frogs could be sold profitably. One skin is worth 1,000 guineas and a carcass 2,000. That's not a bad profit. The prince asked what was made from frog skin. She replied that amphibian skin is strong and soft, and it stretches well. It is used to make shoes, bags, and purses. Nabi asked if the laces could be treated at the workshop, but Luke decided to do it himself. The fact that they want to cut up frogs surprised the maid. He asked if she knew how to do it. Nabi thought she feared the other maids would dislike her. Luke offered to carve one herself. The first place to start is with a circular cut on the neck. The skin is very tough, and the knife must be sharp. This is the most crucial part. You have to be careful. Now you have to open the neck incision with your hands, and in one movement separate the head from the carcass. Now it is necessary to completely remove the skin from the carcass. If it is not cut, it can be sold more expensive. When the skin has been removed, the carcass should be cut in half. The hind legs have the best meat. The other parts are not very tasty and few people eat them. Lala wanted to cut one frog together. She wanted to try. Amelia refused. Erica did too. Luke replied that he and Lala could do it on their own. Now we need to make some holes with a fork. Luke noticed that they only had one pot. He was told that a gardener used to live in the cottage. In moving away, he had taken the crockery with him. Luke asked Nabi to make the pan, which she did not refuse him. They probably already had dinner, but the guy wanted to give them a frying pan and spices. The spices would be good for both eating and cooking. He will write a memo too. The girls thanked him. In the Duke's castle, the maid announced that everything was ready for dinner. She asked him not to be drawn into any strange amusements. Luke replied that they were not amusements, but hunting. There's no danger, but it raises the skill level. The boy asked what Lala's level was now. The girl replied that she was already at level 10. The maid was surprised. In just an hour, they had managed to improve their skills that much. She apologized for calling it a strange amusement. The prince replied that it was still fun for them. MANHWA's level has also risen to the 10th level. She wants to go to the temple tomorrow. The girl asked for a carriage to be prepared. The maid thought she should prepare a bath. As it turned out, Luke had removed the dirt with a spell. So dinner first. The prince will go to meet Her Majesty the Queen. They will meet in the dining room. He led her to the table. Luke, MANHWA, and Amelia were congratulated on their engagement. The ceremony will take place tomorrow, and today they decided to pay their respects together. The prince thanked them. Among those present at the table, Luke noticed Iris. The girl is no longer just a servant in the Duke's house, but the princess's maid. Therefore, she is allowed to dine with them. Nabi complimented that Iris's father had recently become an earl. However, thanks to his daughter, his position is now strengthened. At dinner, the cook asked the prince's opinion. The boy replied that it was delicious, especially the fish a la manière. As it turned out, it was not in vain that the chef had asked for the freshest fish from the southern lake to be delivered in the morning. Apparently, the place had been thoroughly prepared for Luke's visit. The boy remembered if he'd said he wanted fish. Gotta watch what he says. The prince thanked the cook for remembering that. Luke asked if he could set aside some fresh milk, eggs, and cheese for him. The cook realized that the lad wanted to do the cooking again and decided to help him. Luke was grateful for this. So the kitchen staff will be able to rest tomorrow afternoon. The prince plans to cook by himself. The cook asked if he would allow him to assist. The protagonist suspected that he wanted another recipe to sneak in. The guy reminded him that chefs don't like it when someone adopts their recipes. He apologized. Anna thought the prince was so greedy that he didn't even share the recipe. The queen said that new original recipes are very much appreciated. The girl remarked that this was true. He too wanted to serve new dishes at the festive reception that no one had ever tasted before. Of course, the most skillful cooks are highly sought after by aristocrats. Luke also wanted to make a name for himself in cookery. Brand new recipes could bring in a handsome income. Anna had no idea. She apologized. Actually, Luke wanted to praise the cook. Lala asked the boy to play the piano for her. Miefa would like to hear it too. Nabi noticed that somehow he was quick to agree. Now he has the sheet music, thanks to Nabi. So he's at peace. Luke decided to start with Beethoven. Miefa enjoyed his playing. Lala and Diana were shocked by her beauty. Guy suggested that Lala try it. He noticed that the girl was playing much better than before. She was very pleased. Lala rehearsed a lot. Luke admired her cuteness. When asked, she said that she liked to play the piano. Lala wanted to learn to play just like her brother Luke. He handed her sheet music to study. If she practiced on them, she would learn to play the tune he played too. The girl was grateful to him. Emilia, Miefa, and the Duchess asked him to forward them too. Luke thought they didn't need sheet music. He offered to send today's tune. They did not refuse the offer. Diana fell asleep on Iris's lap. The prince thought it was time for them to get ready for bed. In Luke's room, Diana inquired what the host was doing. He was experimenting with appropriation magic. She asked what it meant. Luke wanted to create a vault in subspace. The girl surmised that with his skills it was not difficult. The boy replied that until he tried it, he wouldn't know. He used detailed analysis. He found it strange that this ring had only one slot, and the ones he gave to the girls had 4 each. Diana realized that the number of slots depended on the mithril content. Luke had only taken 10% this time, so that wasn't enough. He used appropriation and created a storage ring in subspace. There were 5 objects of 10 kilograms each in the storage ring. Not bad. Now he would begin the experiment. First, using the appropriation magic, he should introduce the storage. Luke asked Nabi's opinion. She thought it worked out beautifully. The prince wanted to instantly change clothes like Diana changes her appearance. No more than 2 sets could be stored. He mentally named the set and visualized the clothes. For example, the academy uniform. The boy decided to try. Diana was surprised that he changed his clothes and it worked. However, Luke replied that it didn't really. The buttons on his shirt were undone and his belt was loose. Changing clothes with his own magic worked better for him. The boy asked Nabi why the mistakes were made. As it turned out, he had not created a detailed enough mental image. For example, one should represent a shirt with the buttons carefully buttoned. Obviously, one should imagine the clothes as if they were already worn on him. By dressing himself with magic, Luke was creating a mental image with the mistakes already corrected. The prince realized that there were too many articles of clothing. He would work on his costume later. And he would start with dresses for Lala. Luke worked hard during the night. In the morning, he was awakened by Iris. When asked what time it was, she replied that it was almost 5 o'clock in the morning. They decided to take a walk around the ducal castle today. The boy was hot. The maid was indignant that Diana had never made a habit of wearing pajamas. Luke was covered in sweat. He used the cleansing. The familiars were awakened. Iris remarked that he had been working again during the night. Luke replied that he had stayed up late, so he didn't get much sleep. The girl got angry and asked if he could not work without her. She wants to learn everything, after all. The guy was going to make shampoo, she could help him. Iris was ready for that. In the training room, the prince and the maid were met by Emilia, Lala, and Anna. Anna didn't think Luke would be training. The boy noticed that she was already angry from the morning. He was approached by Lala. She told him that she slept at Emilia's last night. This embarrassed the girl. The little girl was so excited. She hadn't been home in a long time, and now she was being spoilt. He thought she was cute. Iris inquired if the Lord would be running today. The prince replied that he had already been ridiculed by some guards on his way here. He noticed those young guards looking at her, probably wanting to meet her. Luke suggested it would be better to go back to the room and have some tea. Iris said they shouldn't have time for any casual introductions. The prince thought they wanted a date. Then the girl would say that the prince's assistant during training is no time for dating. Luke remarked that this is quite lucid. He knocked on the duchess's door. The woman allowed entry. The boy wanted to escort her to breakfast. He was greeted by the very same maids. They thanked Luke for the frog meat. The girls ate it with pleasure, and for the first time they tasted the spices. Luke was happy to help. Only the recently sick maid had better not work yet. The girl replied that she was feeling well. The prince explained that the treatment had worked, but rest was needed for a full recovery. The maids understood him. The duchess asked them to leave the room for a while. She needed to talk to Luke. The boy wondered what was the matter. Sasha heard he had done training for healers. The protagonist replied that was correct. If she is worried about her illness, they will be able to cure her. It would take a few more days. The woman said that was not the point. She wanted to be treated by him. No, not just her. The duchess wanted Luke to cure all the sick in their duchy. The boy asked to voice the reason why it was him. As it turns out, the prince has to convince everyone that he really can cure a disease he calls tuberculosis. According to Nabi, the duchess means that not only the Duke of Guile, but everyone in the duchy and beyond is now evaluating Luke. So he has been asked to cure a few patients. This will help sway those who don't yet know him and even his opponents to his side. Luke has noticed that aristocrats are devious. However, in the current situation, he could understand them. The guy realized that, in other words, she was trying to clear his reputation in front of everyone in the kingdom as quickly as possible. As it turned out, in general terms, yes. The duchess apologized for having to use him like that. She's really embarrassed. Luke asked not to apologize. He is grateful to her for the opportunity, and will heal everyone he can. He is ready to start after breakfast. This pleased the woman. She would like to attend as well. The boy didn't see it as a problem. He asked if she had enough strength to be on her feet for a long time. The duchess stated that she would try. Sasha is sure that when seriously ill people see that she can already walk, they too will have hope for recovery. In addition, she is worried about her friends, from whom she has not heard from for a long time. Luke offered to go together. But we should eat first. The woman agrees with him. When asked, she replied that the wards for the sick were arranged in the house of an aristocrat, a carriage ride of a couple of minutes. Luke cured sick people. Iris helped him to do so. The boy inquired about the duchess's well-being. She was a little tired. The woman was grateful to Luke. The friend recovered immediately, even managed to talk. Iris was surprised. The prince thought it was all thanks to the strength-enhancing potion. The duchess recognized it as a miraculous cure. She asked if he could make it too. His knowledge of alchemy is sufficient. But the special skills aren't enough yet, needing level 30. Iris asked how come he can create a top-level healing potion but not a tonic potion. His mentor had also told him that these potions were of equal difficulty. But he never learned. Iris wondered if she could do it. Luke said that she needed to master alchemical magic first. The girl has no aptitude for it. The prince was surprised. There will be hard study ahead. But alchemy combines monastic magic and the dark arts. Some elements of dark magic she already possesses. Also possesses monk magic, so she definitely has the ability. Iris didn't expect this. It takes a long time to master basic techniques like cleavage and extraction. That's why many people give up and quit. Iris promised that she would work hard for a year. Luke laughed. How much knowledge does a student really gain in a year of study? The mentor often repeated those words. The girl wondered what he meant. Surely everyone was trying very hard. Luke saw the Duke's castle. This conversation is very important to Iris, so she asked not to stop half-heartedly. Luke replied that he needed to send the Duchess to rest first. They would talk while he prepared dinner. In the kitchen, the prince began cooking. He decided to continue. Students study once a week in their specialty classes. But how many times do they actually use magic? The ingredients are often quite expensive, so you don't get much practice. Iris noticed that he was right. Per students. His tutor rarely had access to the rare herbs in the royal garden, and they had plants delivered to them every day from the greenhouses at the temples. He made him practice until Luke was exhausted. The boy had spent years studying spells from thousands of books, so he had plenty of practice. This surprised Iris. Although, even without mastering alchemy, knowing healing magic at an intermediate level and obtaining materials, it was possible to prepare some potions. Going broke on ingredients for the sake of training wasn't necessary. The girl believed that if one extracted ingredients using alchemy, the medicine would turn out much better than what was made in the usual way. She wanted to learn it. Luke decided that as soon as they returned to the academy, he would start teaching her alchemy. The girl was pleased and thanked him. Luke thought she was cute. Uncle invited the protagonist to go fishing. The weather is nice today. For dinner they decided to roast a tempura. Everyone liked the finished dish. Lala wondered what was for lunch today. Mifa was also curious. Luke wanted to cook the frogs he caught yesterday. This angered the girls. Anna thought he wanted to make them eat all sorts of creepy things. Luke asked to see for himself. It's the red-veined meat from the first magical creature Lala caught. She skinned the frog herself, too. This surprised the Duchess. She, as well as the maid, knew that the Duke would probably get angry. The lad inquired as to the reason. As it turned out, Guile is very fond of Lala. Therefore, he would be angry. Luke remarked that this was somehow childish. The groceries have to be fresh, so there is no time to wait for the absent ones. He offered Lala to help him with the cooking. The girl agreed. They made portion pieces and fried them first. Then they lowered them so that the oil would not splash. The prince asked her to be careful. The main thing was not to burn herself. Lala did it. They would fry 6 slices each. It looked delicious, and the flavor was wonderful. Soon it will be ready. When the pieces are golden in color, they will take them out and put them on a rack to drain off the excess oil. That's it. It's fried frog meat. Luke tasted it. It was good, but probably not very filling. You could fry it in batter. Lala liked it. She offered it to her mother to try. The Duchess also appreciated the result. She was pleased that it was Lala's first time cooking. The maid asked to let her try a piece too. Luke was surprised that Pamela asked for one too. It seems she wants to test the food before Lala herself eats it. She said that the flavor was very mild yet pleasant. Guy realized that it was okay to relax. Anna wanted to try it too, since Lala was cooking for the first time. The girl gave her sister a treat. Luke offered some to Mif as well. He held out a piece to her. The girl said it was delicious. Diana wanted to try it too. The prince decided to fry the next portion in breadcrumbs. He rolled the pieces in it. Lala must lay it out carefully so that the oil from the other pieces wouldn't splatter on her. The girl understood him. To go hunting, to cook on his own, and then to eat with his friends. His uncle had taught him to appreciate it all. The protagonist wanted Lala to have this experience as well. And he seems to have succeeded. The girl realized that cooking is a lot of fun. Both of them argued about who had a better taste. Diana enjoyed the food. Luke served the dish. It tastes 100 times better when you get it yourself and cook it yourself. He asked Lala if it was true. The girl agreed with him. The Duchess thanked him. Lala had learned a lot today. She asked her, Anna and Amelia, not to forget from now on that the food on their table had been carefully and laboredly prepared by someone. They should be grateful. The daughters agreed with her. Luke noticed that the butter could still be used. He sliced the potatoes into plates and dried them. Next he fried them in the oil for 10 minutes. All that was left was to salt. Everyone present appreciated the result. Diana asked the name of the dish. Luke replied that it was crisps. The Duchess received a message from her husband. According to him, it is still raining, so he will come home tomorrow. Luke was going to go to the temple with Lala and Miefa. But it would be better to postpone until tomorrow. Miefa agreed with him. After all, she wanted to get her first assignment soon too. A cold would be very unfortunate. And Lala wanted to go so badly. Pamela said they needed to get permission to work from His Majesty and the Duke. Luke was surprised. He asked the Duchess if they really needed approval to work. According to the woman, not that approval. But if one makes an important decision without consulting the Duke, he gets upset. Miefa's father also takes great offense. Luke compared them to children. Miefa asked what kind of job she should choose. The guy replied that both her and Lala would be suitable for magical tasks. The girl asked if he really thought so. And Lala was told she had more knightly abilities. The prince explained that it was much easier to develop magical skills as a child. Therefore, It would be better for her to choose tasks related to magic. For those who will be given a livelihood by working as a guardian, martial-related occupations would be suitable. A duke's daughter only needs to know how to defend herself. Luke asked what Erica thought. She is a guard. The girl agrees with him. Sometimes you have to engage in combat with the person you are guarding. Such a situation is usually considered unfavorable. An unskilled fighter becomes a burden in practice. But if you help the guards by attacking enemies with magic, the benefits will be much greater. Luke said that by choosing magic tasks, Lala would develop both her magic and fighting skills. It's a win-win. But if she likes martial work, it would be better to choose knighthood in the academy, and the corresponding tasks. They chose magic. That's what they'll tell their father. Luke beckoned to Lala. He handed her some sort of item. It was a frog purse. It was made from the skin of the first frog she had ever caught. The girl liked the pink frog. As it turns out, it's not just a purse. It's also a pocket in space with a built-in time stop. So you have to keep it safe. The queen asked him to stop. She didn't think it was appropriate to give a royal heirloom to a little girl. The little girl objected that it was not a royal heirloom. Mr. Luke made it himself. After his familiars were the Fenrir Hattie and the dragon Diana, he had new skills. The boy thought not that it was true, but it wasn't exactly a lie either. Luke asked not to tell anyone that he could create. The prince suggested that Lala do the appropriation. It would hurt a little. Immediately afterwards, he repaired the wound. So, she has to stick her hand in her purse. A screen will appear. If she wants to remove something on the screen, she should imagine putting the item in a spatial pocket. It will go into the vault inside the purse. To master the technique, Luke suggested practicing. The girl succeeded. She admired her brother Luke and promised to take care of the frog. Diana declared that she wanted one just like it. The prince didn't understand why. She already had space pockets. Bigger pockets than his, probably. The girl replied that he didn't understand anything. She doesn't need a magic artifact. She wants a cute little purse in the shape of a frog. Luke confessed that he wanted to make one for everyone else. Only he didn't have the materials. He asked the duchess if there were any places near the castle to mine mithril. The boy made a gift for Lala, but didn't think about the consequences and handed it over in front of everyone. He wondered how Duchess Sasha would react. The woman replied that since mithril might be needed in an emergency, it was stored in ingots. She suggested that if the materials were collected, Amelia and Anna would also each have an artifact. Luke replied that it would require black iron, adamantite, orichalcum, and mithril. The Duchess asked Pamela to help Orcus bring the materials the Lord named from the vault. The girl asked what quantity was required. She ordered that a minimum supply be left, and anything in excess to bring to Luke. The servant girl was indignant. You can't just give everything to one person. The girl asked to consult with the Duke first. The woman replied that Gylo would tell her everything later. The maid added that artifacts of such value could not even be bought with money. Luke realized that there were two ways of going about things. However, the Duke was not the kind of man who would be angry with a wife who spent family heirlooms for the sake of the children's well-being. Nobby guessed what Pamela was worried about. The mithril stored in the castle alone can be used to make 800 swords. That's about 640 kilograms. Luke realized that it was really a lot. Mistress asked Pamela not to procrastinate. Any metals could simply be bought. But artifacts like the handbag Luke had made could not be obtained for any money. Besides, there is a good chance that Luke could invent and create some new artifacts for them. The prince recalled hearing everything. 20 kilograms would be enough. Mistress asked Pamela to get the hairdresser here. The girl thought she wants him to give Prince Luke a haircut. As it turned out, the woman herself needed a haircut. She's been bedridden for a long time. Needs to get her hair in order now. Luke said that after the haircut it would be possible to go to the baths. Mistress was glad she could go too. The maid will tell her to get everything ready. Natalie and Erica agreed to help the Duchess. Pamela resented it. After all, she had always accompanied her before. The mistress wanted to try some special washing products. So she wanted Natalie and Erica to teach her how to use them. The girls realized she meant shampoo and were happy to help. Iris wondered what the Lord was up to. Luke reminded her that they were chopping herbs. Need to run out. The girl remembered. She had wondered even then. Iris thought he was making medicine for Lala. One of the maids asked if something was hurting Lala. The guy replied that it wasn't a medicine. And let her not worry either, the girl is healthy. The maid asked what then. Luke asked the kitchen staff for help, but they started sneezing from the smell of herbs and ran away. So now all hope was now on the maids. Iris decided to call them. The girls asked what they should do. The prince asked them to peel and chop the vegetables and chop the onions into small cubes. The maid said she could do it. Luke called for Iris. They have 6 basic spices. They need to be mixed thoroughly. The girl assumed it was his secret recipe. She wondered what kind of medicine would result. Luke has said many times that it is not a medicine. They make spices for food. Iris became indignant. That's where all the ingredients improve stomach function. The prince replied that their purpose is different. Now he roasted the ginger and garlic with cloves, bay leaf, black pepper and cinnamon over low heat. The aroma was pleasant. But he wasted 12 ingredients on the seasoning. Too wasteful. Guy didn't think so. This pot is enough for several dishes. They'll make more of them and put them in storage. That surprised Iris. She thought he would dilute them with water. Luke asked Nabi to compress the time in the workshop, about a month. With the current level, it was possible to compress a month to a few days. The prince told her to do as fast as possible. He needs 100 servings. So multiply everything by 20. If the maids are relieved, you have to grate the onions and apples. You also need to slice the beef. He fried the onions to a caramel color. He added the beef and beef fat and added the carrots, onions and potatoes. Now into both pots instead of water he poured the broth that Luke had made in the workshop. Iris asked how he made it, also again without her. The prince decided to tell later. The next thing to do is to make the curry sauce. He melted butter and added flour to it. Now curry powder. Added the sauce to the broth. After distributing it evenly, added the fire. Now tasting. The maids also wanted to taste it. He showed them what was spicy and what was not. The girls tasted the result. They praised the dish highly. A little tingling on the tongue, but very tasty. When asked, he replied that the dish is called curry. Luke likes the cuisine of southern countries, although the recipe is Japanese. It tastes better when it is infused. So one day the pots will stand in his warehouse. And he set aside some for the maids too. Now Luke would do the cleaning with a spell. Natalie knocked on the window. She said Mistress Amelia was calling him, wanting to talk about something. There was a knock at her door. Natalie announced that she had brought Mr. Luke. The girl allowed her to enter. Before their eyes on the dresser were several dolls. Nabi liked them. All these dolls were made by Emily's hands. Luke realized that she was fond of needlework. The room seemed nice. This is Amelia's private quarters. Since she doesn't like to go out, she spends most of her time here. And unbeknownst to her, she had developed a fondness for needlework. She thought it was a strange hobby. Luke didn't think so. There's no shame in having a hobby. Did she really sew all this herself? That's great. The girl thanked him. She asked to sit down and decided to make them all some tea. Amelia wanted to talk about something, namely about the reason why she started avoiding men. As Luke understood from the Duke's words, something had happened about 5 years ago. As it turned out, no one knew the story. The girl decided to take off her necklace. Everyone took notice of her. Luke noticed that she and Mifa looked very much alike. Erica resented that this was all their reaction. Luke was surprised by her words, though his heart twitched. There's no denying that Amelia is very beautiful. That's why their reaction is a little strange. The guy admitted that she was indeed beautiful. But next to him, Miefa and Iris. His sisters, Lilithia, Natalie, Erica, they are all cute and beautiful. He has a level 5 beauty resistance. The girls resented that there is no such resistances. Amelia had to muster up the courage to open up. Miefa replied that Mr. Luke was showing such concern. He purposely put on an indifferent look so she wouldn't get flustered. Luke realized that he had been exposed. The girl remarked that it was very considerate of him. The maid suggested it would be better to change the subject. Her name is Sheila. Mistress Amelia is uncomfortable recalling this incident. So, with their permission, she will tell the story. Sheila has been with Amelia for as long as she can remember. The boy noticed that she was around Amelia all the time. Nabi explained that Sheila E. Harkins is 29 years old, the third daughter in the Harkins family. After graduating from the academy, she began working as a junior servant at the royal castle. There she was spotted by Amelia and made her maid. Luke realized that she had stolen a maid from the royal castle. 10 years ago, Zeno had not yet inherited the throne, and Gale was the second crown prince, so he lived in the royal castle with his family. He became duke after Zeno had already ascended the throne. So Sheila has been with Amelia for 10 years. She was allowed to begin the story. At the beginning of the year, a ball is held at the royal castle for the heirs of the nobility who have reached the age of 10. 6 years ago, Mistress Amelia was among the debutantes. When she found herself alone in the toilet room, a viscount attacked her and dragged her into the next room. Mistress Amelia bit him on the arm. He became enraged and slapped her several times in the face. Mistress Amelia was able to call for help and the attempted assassination ended in nothing. From then on, Mistress Amelia became afraid of men. Luke had expected something like this. Iris thought he knew everything in advance, but that turned out not to be the case. Natalie shouldn't have left Mistress alone then. Luke inquired as to the reason for the attack. Mifa admitted that she had been involved in the story, too. The boy asked how. She was attacked because of the offense she had caused. The villain turned out to be the son of a viscount who lived in the Duke of Forest's domain. The viscount was a masterful tax evader. The king began to crack down on careless taxpayers, and the viscount's family was nearly ruined. Soon the title passed to someone else. The viscount asked the Duke of Gale for leniency, but he refused, which was to be expected. Luke asked why they had attacked Amelia after all. Apparently, the viscount planned to marry her off to his son. If he took Mistress Amelia's innocence, the Duke would have no other choice. And the viscount would have access to the Duke of Gale's fortune. Guy asked what Miefa had to do with it. Erica inquired if he knew what Mistress Miefa's nickname was. The girl said it was not to be told to anyone. As it turned out, the bounty hunter. This angered the princess. Luke realized that because of her job as an interrogator. That's right. The boy is as perceptive as ever. Then Miefa, at the request of her father and uncle, determined which of the subjects were lying. Duke Forest was grateful to her. Among the aristocrats, however, few liked her. The girl asked if the prince disliked her nickname. Luke asked not to worry. He reminded her of her nickname. Erica replied that Mistress definitely had a better one. This answer seemed rude to him. The boy wanted to say that he didn't attach much importance to nicknames and apologized. This made the princess laugh. She turned to him. He gave Mistress Amelia a ring very timely. She seemed to have gained confidence in him because of it. The girl suggested that they had some kind of special relationship. Luke realized that she was getting jealous. Amelia confessed that it was Sheila who had advised her to invite Mr. Luke today. The princess inquired as to the reason. Amelia told her about all of Mr. Luke's actions. As she listened, the maid drew her attention to his attitude towards Lala and Mother. In this way she began to realize that Mr. Luke was indeed trustworthy. Luke realized that Sheila had been following him. The girl apologized. Mistress Amelia was so worried. She had to see for herself. The boy wasn't angry. So he passed the test? The maid said yes. And they from all the servants of the ducal castle congratulate him and Mistress Amelia on their engagement. Luke was surprised, since all the servants are already aware. They decided to get back on topic. Luke asked if they thought Amelia could be helped to deal with her fear. She had been through a traumatic experience. The girl wondered if magical healing could work. Guy replied that there are magical techniques that can have a certain effect. However, they hardly heal Amelia completely, even with daily treatment. The thing is that the healing spell will revive memories every time. And that could do even more harm. Amelia realized that it was unpleasant. He didn't think that magic could be used to cure her fears. That's why they'll make her the strongest knight. Luke called the technique to repel any attack. He asked if she practiced sword fighting every day. Turns out she didn't. Finding a partner isn't easy. And she doesn't like to practice alone. Luke decided to try to use Diana to get her levels up. Even in the summer, the partner's skill will increase as well. If her skills are above average, she will be able to defeat any opponent, and the fear will go away by itself. Amelia thought so too. She is ready to start now. The girl thanked him for giving her confidence.